people who earn a good salary in a low-stress job, what do you do? Story 1. I'm a civilian security guard on an army base in the middle of nowhere surrounded by thousands of square miles of empty desert. I made $60K this year for watching tumbleweeds and jackrabbits. I was always under the impression that civilian security guards make crap, like $14 to $15 per hour. Are you in some special area or have some kind of special training or certificates? He was probably a 31B MP in the Army, got out and was hired by a defense contractor to basically do the same job he'd been doing, check IDs at the gate, but for way more money. If he were doing the same job for a defense contractor in Kuwait, he'd be making triple what he makes in the US. So kids, enlist, and when you get out, get a job with a defense contractor. You'll be set for life. I wasn't in, but most of the guys here were. I was a truck driver for 15 years before this and interviewed well. They trusted me to be a good fit and it worked out well. The guys here are amazing and I love the social environment. These guys are like truckers, strong-willed and independent. We tell each other to screw off and laugh about it constantly. It's all fun and games until the one time your job becomes relevant. Yep, not gonna lie, in today's environment we do take that crap seriously, but compared to a policeman's job, we don't have to do traffic stops and domestic disputes and all the other crazy BS they have to deal with. No job is 100% safe. As an ex-truck driver, I was at much higher levels of risk due to traffic, obesity, depression, and suicide. Truck drivers are actually ranked fairly high on the job accidents and terrible lifestyles. Just the weight loss from having to stay in shape as a job requirement has probably added 20 years to my life. I dropped from 240 pounds to 190 pounds. It took me 3 months to get my wind back to pass the run. Story 2. Operator at a nuclear plant. Make up to 180K depending on how much overtime I work. If I don't work OT, I'll make 140K and only work 32 to 48 hours a week. It's shift work, which can take a toll, but it's a union job and we're treated very well. It's low stress in a sense where if you can pass the monthly exams demonstrating your knowledge of nuclear plant operations, you shouldn't be concerned. But if you're not as book smart as the rest of the crew, you can have some problems passing the initial training you receive and the continuing. So the moral of the story is, if you can pass the training, it's very low stress. Nuke mechanic here. Being a nuke mechanic is way less stressful than being an operator. 40 hours a week, not part of the critical group like them, and the training is easier. My pay is $47 an hour. If I work the back shift, add another $3 an hour to that. If I'm a welder, add 50 cents to that. We are union as well. It is not worth being a welder for the extra 50 cents in my opinion. Get forced to work more overtime unless you're a money whore like me. Currently, I'm sitting at 158 Gs this year. Yeah, I worked 3 outages and a decent amount of OT, but it's not hard and not stressful. Just have to deal with the BS they put us through. I'm pretty sure OP and I work for the same company. I'm not about to mention the plant I'm at. Out of interest, are there any health hazards, provided that there is no incident, of course, from your regular work there? Authorities always say that the plants are safe to work at and live next to. As a mechanical test engineer, I regularly work inside the reactor compartments during overhauls. The level of radiation we are exposed to is very low. The federal limit is 5 rem per year, not to exceed 2 rem per quarter. My company limit is more conservative at 500 mrem or 0.5 rem per year. If you get the federal limit, your lifetime cancer risk increases by 3%. For perspective, a typical CT scan exposes you to about 600 mrem. You are far more likely to be injured on the job than to suffer adverse health effects from the nuclear aspect. It's an industrial work environment. Injuries happen when safety isn't taken seriously, but that's up to you and the company. Story 3. I install 1 kitchen per week. I used to try for 2 to 3, but the stress isn't worth it, and there's a hell of a lot more money in it these days compared to 10 to 15 years ago. I don't touch electrics as I have a NIC/EIC certified Sparky. I'll wire up ovens, plugs, and hobs if he's had to come back for his second fix early. Also have a good plasterer if skimming is needed to a paintable finish. But if it's just tiling or splashback all around, then I'll fill the sparks raggles myself. Generally, it's Day 1, rip out the old kitchen, do any plumbing that needs to be done to bring it nicely into the sink base position, and the Sparky does his first fix. If there's plastering, then I get him at midday and call it an early finish for myself. But after the kitchens are out, I do any building work or make good the walls before I even start fitting a unit. Generally, I aim to have all the base units in by the end of Monday unless the plasterer is booked. Day 2, if the plasterer was out Monday afternoon, I would start pulling in the base units, but if there was no plaster and the base units are already in, then it's clad on panels, worktops, sink, final plumbing, and hob cutout. While I'm doing that, my laborer is putting up the wall units, clad on panels, and any fillers. Day 3, if there are splashbacks all around, then I start them as my laborer does the cornice and pelmet, and then I start putting appliances in. Generally, the Sparky does his second fix about now, and with the new regs, he is mostly changing the board to the latest RCD protected type. I take that time to do stuff I don't need power for, like align doors and drill handles if they are needed. Day 4. It is a half day most of the time, plinth, shelves, cover caps over adjustable brackets and screw holes, drawer alignment covers, etc. Really good tidy up, seal around worktops, caulk fillers. Obviously, some simpler jobs can be done in 3 days, and bigger jobs may take 5 days. There could be an odd holdup due to something unforeseen, but I'm glad I'm not having to do jobs in a day or two, like when I first left the school. I only book one job a week now, so I know I've got the whole week if I need it. I just like having a laid-back attitude and doing the best and neatest job I can do. I take pride in my work, but I also like getting home to have dinner with my wife and kids instead of getting in late and reheating food. Story 4. Edit textbooks online. Have worked from home for over 15 years. I've written 14 textbooks and the pay is horrible. The work is mind-numbing as well. I think you're over-glorifying this as a way to make money. The publishers are scoundrels and cheat you every chance you get. I'd sooner go back to teaching than writing textbooks. I was glad to see that you at least conceded the part about working through connections in New York City and the fact that you did need graduate degrees and extensive experience, in addition to personal connections to industry money handlers. I think when you add those caveats, the low-stress part goes out the door. Story 5. Firefighter. When I say low stress, I mean that when my shift is over, I don't have any looming deadlines or unfinished work waiting for me the next day. When I'm working, there can be moments of pretty high stress. It's not chronic stress though, just bursts of occasional crazy high stress. My soon-to-be father-in-law is a FF/medic for the federal system. He's making almost $100K a year. Out of 4 kids, 2 are EMT-B and my fiance is a paramedic. All 3 of them are considering fire school and are currently pursuing the federal system. Great job if you can handle the stress and have good coping mechanisms. I think the biggest thing about the job is 1, the dangers of course, 2, PTSD. So man, firefighters and medics end up with PTSD and don't handle it very well. The life-ending rate in this industry is very high. I was first on the scene at a 5-person, all teenagers car crash into a tree on the back roads. The driver died on impact, and the other 4 were bloody and screaming with broken bones and crap. I had to stop the one who crawled out the back from pulling the other girls out the back, so they didn't get hurt further. There was smoke and car fluids dripping, and I still remember the smell and the screams. I remember the wait for the first responders to arrive, and I could only imagine how terrible that job must be. It took months to process what I saw that day. It's a hard job I could never picture myself doing. I worked as a mechanic for a few years. As soon as I wash the grease off of my hands, my job is done. Go home, take a nice soapy shower, and do whatever. First college and now engineering? My brain is running almost 24/7 thinking about how to fix that one issue and plan for the next project. I mean, the money is better, I'm not scrubbing grease off my fingernails, I'm safe from a literal ton of metal crushing me, but it's mentally exhausting without a good few days off. Even goofing off on Reddit half the day, it's more tiring than being a grease monkey. Story 6. Barber for 18 years. I started off in cosmetology school and went back to be a barber. Women's hair is fun for a while, but I love cutting a fresh, sharp fade. Story 7. Summer job? I was a tree planter all through 9 years of school. After a few summers' experience, I was making about $16K. and spending almost nothing. In 2 months. If you can handle the weather and have the right attitude, it is no stress at all. Wake up, eat, put trees in the ground, eat, sleep, repeat. Now that I have a master's and 15 years of experience in my real job, I still don't make quite as much as I did back then. I spent 5 summers in Ontario and 4 in BC. Don't go to ON. Much worse conditions and lower tree prices, but I still made $5,000 in 2 months my first summer, 98. Pretty good compared to anything I could have done in the city. The southern interior of BC is where it's at. Good weather, a laid-back atmosphere, at least on my crew, and beautiful scenery. You get paid per tree. 7.5 to 32 cents per tree was the range I saw throughout my career. So the more you plant, read, the harder you work, the more you make. There's a pretty steep learning curve, so in your first year or two, you will feel like you're busting your ass for peanuts and swear the vets are cheating, too, by putting in the numbers they claim. It gets much better with experience. The type of tree and land you're planting affect the price. Just because you are getting a high price per tree doesn't mean you are making the most money. Sometimes I'd be excited to bend over for 20 cents, but I do not want to get out of bed for 32. It's not for everyone, as you are normally living in the bush, with other like-minded individuals for days, weeks on end. Google silviculture for more information. Tree planting is extremely demanding. The conditions are terrible. At first, it's cold and wet, and then as it gets warmer, the bugs come out in droves, and any time you spend dealing with bugs means less trees are planted. You just have to learn how to suck it up. However, tree planting is rewarding work, it pays well, and the camp life is a lot of fun. Tree planting is tough, but well worth it. Not for the faint of heart. Story 8. Sysadmin. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm 2 quarters away from finishing a bachelor's in cybersecurity, and I'm hoping to do something like being a sysadmin, but for some reason I'm super scared of applying, even though I feel comfortable with the coursework and generally enjoy it as much as possible. But what are the steps you took to land the job? I actually got my degree in psychology, but worked at the university I went to in the Student Affairs Division as an IT guy. Nothing beats experience. A couple of weeks before graduation, I applied to work as an IT field technician at a major hospital in my state. Got the job, and after 2 tests and an interview, and did the whole say yes to everything and work overtime first in, last out, because I knew I wanted to end up as a sysadmin. By saying yes to everything, I ended up getting some SCCM training. Then one of the server teams needed someone who knew how to use SCCM. Worked with them for 6 months on a major project, kicked the project's butt, and they hired me onto their team at the end of the project. That was within 2 years of graduating. A lot of my friends call me lucky. I say fortune favors the bold. All they see is the easy parts where I graduated college, made great money, and then magically got promoted and made even greater money. They weren't there for the 2 a.m. patient is on the table and the computer that's supposed to show their x-rays just exploded calls that I had to get out of bed to go and fix. Or the 2 years of on-call rotations where for a week, a month, I'd be paged 4 to 5 times a night and have to drive all the way out to the hospital for, on average, 2 of those. The rest could be fixed remotely. Out of a team of 25 field techs, I was, within my first year, the guy people came to with questions. Sorry if I'm going on a tangent or stroking my own ego, but these kinds of questions always get me going because so many people on the internet want to say it's not possible to work your way into stuff anymore. Keep your eyes open, don't pay attention to the negative people, and network with everyone. Don't ever forget that no matter what you do in IT, there's always a person at the other end of it. You're a customer service guru first and an IT guy second. I can easily point out 3 or 4 people on my previous field tech team who were smarter, better with computers, and more involved with the IT side of stuff than I was, but they lacked empathy and customer service skills. They eventually moved up, but it took them a lot longer and it was much more difficult, a process for them. Be the guy everyone wants to work with, or at least be the guy everyone knows they can approach. Too many old farts in IT are gatekeepers to their own knowledge because they think it's their ticket to job security. Doing a good job should be your ticket to job security. So yeah, those were my steps. If you want something a little bit more palpable than the verbal diarrhea I just spewed, I'd say look into healthcare. It's an ever-expanding sector where they hire people fresh out of college a lot, and it always looks great on a resume because they know you can handle emergencies. Cybersecurity in healthcare is getting much bigger now. We just increased our security team by 30, because with regulations requiring hospitals to go towards electronic patient charts, hospitals are forced to protect PHI, lest they get a massive fine due to data breaches. I'm a sysadmin, and it barely feels like a job. I love problem solving, coding, and analysis. The work is varied enough, too, that if I'm having a slow day, it doesn't matter. The thing that a good SA should be doing is putting themselves out of a job. Automate it, document it, make it resilient, make it rebuildable, and all the stress fades. And for bonus points, you are also delivering good service. And for all I mentioned, putting myself out of a job, it has never happened. I just end up being given more interesting things to work on, and I never hand crank anything. Story 9. Librarian. Best job ever. I know this might sound rude, but what do librarians actually do? No offense meant at all. To me, it looks like they organize books only, but there has to be more than that, right? Agreed. I'm a children's librarian, so I get to help shape the next generation, between leading story time, engaging with kids after school, hosting anime night, and recommending the best next book to read. My job is pretty sweet. There are definitely some stressful times, especially when working with homeless people and severely mentally ill folks, since my degree is in library science, not social work, and there's only so much I can do to help, but you know you're really making a difference. I currently work as a school librarian. It's very low stress and I love it. Do you have your master's in library science? Was it worth it? Are school libraries good experiences for public libraries? I was hoping to switch over and work for a public library once I have a couple of years of experience because I can't make more than $1,000 a month here. Still, I'm very happy with the job. I'd just like to make a bit more. If I could get to $40K at some point, I'd be ecstatic. Story 10. I'm a sushi chef. The work I do carries some stress, but the restaurant is completely laid back. Just so everyone knows, the restaurant industry is generally quite stressful, and anyone looking for a low-stress workplace should probably avoid it altogether. Kudos to OP for finding success and avoiding the insanity. I can definitely back this up. Been in restaurants for 11 years now and was recently promoted to kitchen manager in June. When people call in sick or call out, I am the one expected to show up, whether it's my day off and I work 7 days a week, or if I am working overtime. Today, I got bitched for working 35 hours of overtime during the last pay period, bi-weekly, all because people took vacation and called in sick. I didn't ask to work multiple 14-hour shifts, nor did I want to, but not many other people can get the job done, so I had to do it. Not to mention, I was only paid for 12 hours, which would be double time. So they took off the last 2 hours of the 14 and added it to a different day. Restaurants are generally super high stress for very low pay. It is something you really have to have a passion for. Story 11. I do admin work for the government. My pay is $55K. At best, I get 5 emails a day with about 2 that actually concern me. No BS. My phone has rang about 20 times since June 1st. On a super busy day, I have about 45 minutes worth of work to do. I used to work in government administration, and it is a really great place. Things do move at a much slower pace there. I had some issue with my computer, so IT just got me a new account with a new email and all. What I didn't notice was all my scheduled meetings, etc. were still only on the old account, so when I noticed I hadn't been in any of those weekly meetings for a couple of weeks, I figured if they need me, they know where to find me. I was already planning on leaving a couple of months after that. No one even asked why I didn't show up to the meetings anymore. It was a perfect workplace. I was doing some low-level admin work for the courthouse a few months ago. In 2 months, I got maybe 8 phone calls, which, of most, were wrong numbers or insane people who found our number, God knows where, and wanted me personally to dismiss their case. My big project was updating a phone directory. I got it done in a couple of hours, but my bosses told me to basically drag it out to 2 weeks. So sending all staff emails requesting updated info, and then sitting on my thumbs for a week waiting for people to respond. The pay wasn't great, but it was like twice the minimum wage, and considering that I could probably have trained a dog to do the entire job, it was a miracle it paid anything at all. I could have worked there until retirement. Story 12. IT manager at a university. The techs know their jobs, their users, and manage their own schedules and workloads among themselves. Managers basically just have to rubber stamp time cards, confirm parts orders, and make sure the techs don't take all their vacations at the same time. Honestly, almost any IT, the position at a school is cake. Almost half of our IT department doesn't even have a degree, and the ones that do have one are in cybersecurity. They dick around with a few Chromebooks or iPads and watch YouTube most of the day. I envy them. I bust my ass for $17 an hour cleaning the school, and most of them are making $23 an hour, changing out the occasional ink cartridge, and hiding in their office looking busy. Freaking cool guys though. We shoot the crap for like an hour a day just talking about anime and what we did to our project cars. Over the weekend, a few of them helped me get into crypto. I'm hoping to see some decent returns, maybe help pay for some night classes so I don't have to clean toilets anymore. School custodians are not paid adequately and are often neglected, ignored, or looked down on. Not in my classroom. I introduce Frosh students to our custodians every year and make sure to emphasize how critical of a role they play in our art studio. Yeah, custodians clean stuff, but they also maintain a lot of our kilns, keep our classrooms safe when we spill something hazardous, and are always the first call when staff need help moving things around. There are so many things they do that aren't part of their job, and they know the school better than anyone else. Hail to the custodians! Also, OP, check if your school has programs for employees. Oftentimes you can get a tuition deferral or discount if you work at the school. My cousin is an IT manager for a university, namely in charge of the backbone network. I can tell you that it's not an easy job. He is always running around, splitting his time between boring bureaucratic work, planning upgrades, preparing budgets, and actually managing the tech workers, and overseeing network interventions. It is also a public university, so he gets a government employee salary, which is probably half of what he would get in the private sector. I was going to say sysadmin. If you're allowed, budget and management permitting, to set up your infrastructure well, there's very little you need to do on a daily basis. It's one of those jobs that can cause daily stress, struggle, and strife if management gets in the way. But if they're willing to budget over a cattle over pet setup and enough redundancy, your infrastructure will be solid and the stress is largely non-existent. However, the flip side to that argument is always, why do we pay you so much? Everything is working fine, and then the opposing, why do we pay you so much? Everything is constantly broken. I mean, most management is just that. They only have a job because people come into a workplace with many jobs being done from home now. The writing's on the wall, and they become more or less redundant. This doesn't apply to every field or every situation, of course. I know how people on Reddit get if you don't disclaim a bunch of crap, but it does count for a large portion of the working world. Story 13. I worked as a massage model at a massage school. My job was to lay there and be massaged for a few hours while the students did their lessons or took their exams. It was £30 an hour, which isn't loads, but better than the £10 an hour office job I had. Story 14. Owning a parking lot. Oh man, my aunt and uncle own a fairly large field right outside of a small town. They do all of their harvesting by the end of August. Come the second week of September, a huge harvest festival is held. The town sees 500,000 visitors in a weekend. They clean the hell up every year for it by charging $12 a day to park. They even let people camp there and charge $45 a night for camping. It's crazy. They don't even do anything. They have a bunch of kids volunteer to park cars as part of a school community service. They donate maybe a quarter of the earnings and pocket the rest for operational costs. Owning any real estate. Sure, finding good renters can be hard, but you don't do anything once they are in. I've been renting for years, and you have fixed one thing in that time. As a new landlord myself, the hard part, unless you're just born lucky into a wealthy family or make crazy good connections along the way, is acquiring the real estate to turn into rentals. I worked 14-hour days and lived with my parents. That's a privilege in itself. To save for my first house. $95K 2-bed 1-bath, 860 square foot. Lived in that for 3 years with my girlfriend, then she bought a house, and now we live in her house and rent out my old one. It's taken years and a lot of hard work to get here. My first real tenant moved in yesterday, and I won't see a dime from profit for another 2 years, as I'm putting every extra cent back to save for emergencies. And I still have to pay the mortgage, so I'll only make about $200 a month extra when I finally start to make a profit, and I have to go over there tomorrow and fix something. Now, that's the small-time landlord. These big guys that come in and cash and own them outright and price gouge, those guys are making bank, and just hire someone to manage it for them. That's what we call mailbox money. I worked at Niagara Falls State Park when I was younger. One lot charged $10 a car to park. I think it's probably about 15 to 20 now. On holidays, I had to do drops because my drawer would be overflowing with cash, 3+ times a day. 2 people working a 10-hour shift would bring in about 15 to 18K per day. There were 3 lots running during these holidays. Cave of the Winds would clear about 50K per day. Maid of the Mist, which has been privately owned by the same family for over 100 years, makes over $1 million on days like the 4th of July or Labor Day. Story 15. Over the course of my many careers, I can confidently say that there is an inverse relationship between how taxing my work has been and how much I've gotten paid. The most gut-wrenching, physical and emotionally intensive labor was the lowest paying. The highest paying was chilling out in some meetings and making comments every now and then on spreadsheets. Truer words were never spoken. The hardest job I've ever had was McDonald's, and I did temp labor forever. Still work regularly in construction. Nothing broke my soul more than good old Mickey D's. If you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean. And that was actually said with a straight face and a stern voice. Another former Mickey D's slave here can confirm the time to lean, time to clean quote. Also, if you are crapping water and sick with the flu and almost black out from the toilet to the couch, that is apparently still not a good enough excuse to call in 5+ hours before a shift, even though they make you sign contracts saying you won't come in and work while sick. Literally the worst. I told the story of my ex-girlfriend here on Reddit a few times. She's a highly paid software engineer for a well-known entity. Her life is like a goddamn fairy tale. I have a pretty decent semi-cushy job now, but at the time I worked as a welder and did construction my whole adult life. What was interesting about dating her was I was witness to the stark contrast between her work and pay and my work and pay. At that time, I worked as a welder in a welding shop. I would get up early and leave for work while she was still sleeping. At the end of the day, I'd battle traffic, and when I got home, she was playing with her daughter or at the park or napping, etc. Her workday had ended hours before whilst I was still toiling in the shop. She was never in a rush to get to work, could just up and leave her work whenever, long before COVID, and had too many benefits to recall. It's the craziest job I've ever witnessed or ever will with high pay. I will add that I would often tell her that she earned her success because she really did. In college, she would work on her STEM studies while her classmates partied. Also, I made my bed as well because in my young adulthood, all I did was swill booze and party. If you can get paid to know things or be able to figure things out, especially things that other people don't know and can't figure out, you're set. If you're paid for your physical labor, you're screwed. I get paid a frankly ridiculous amount of money, well over $100 an hour, because I know things and can figure things out that most people can't. It's a very niche, very complicated area that requires lots of experience and an engineering degree to do well, plus a dual skill in programming and computers and networking and stuff. I work consistently less hard than I did when washing dishes, cooking, or delivering pizzas. I screw around on the internet for an embarrassing amount of time, but I'm still one of the top performers, even among other people who are good at this, because I'm really good at what I do. Same here. I was a dog groomer that got into the mortgage industry. Part dog groomer / part dog washer, hours were typically anywhere from 8 hours to 14 hours a day. Nurse hours, basically, depending on what dogs I needed to groom and what dogs I needed to help wash. It was labor-intensive and made my body hurt. I was bitten by many, many dogs, both small and large. Still have a scar from a goddamn Doberman that was going senile. Poor breed gets more aggressive as they get older because their skull stops growing and their brain doesn't stop growing due to inbreeding. I got paid $10 an hour for washing. I got a 15% commission on every dog I groomed personally because I had only been grooming for a year or two and was still considered new. Needless to say, I barely made car payments. I got into the mortgage industry and now I process loans. It's so easy once you learn it. I'm helping people get their dream homes. No stress. My company is all about building future mortgage employees, so all of us are 20s or 30s. They let us bring dogs and kids to work, casual dress wear, it's amazing. And I'm getting paid $45K a year, enough to barely support myself in a moderately okay apartment with my dog. I'm also salary plus commission for every loan I process now, and I get to work remotely. Same experience, honestly. Story 16. I have some relatives who work for the US federal government who often talk about jobs where they work in areas like accounting and project management that make over $100,000 and might on a busy day have as much as 2 hours of actual work. My aunt was talking about this older woman near retirement who made over $120,000 a year, and her only job was running some transactions every morning, which usually took no more than 20 minutes. Then she would spend the rest of the day knitting at her desk. This is why a transition from government work to private sector is a difficult thing to accomplish, especially in my line of work. There is a strong stigma against hiring people out of government positions because of how little work those jobs demand. My workplace just hired a new manager whose only employment history is in government, and this person is honestly beyond useless. Driving me up the freaking wall. Zero useful skills beyond scheduling meetings. Does not understand the simplest parts of the tech we use. Not like failure to understand concepts. I'm talking spent 2 hours not being able to figure out the big red button on the screen level crap. Accomplishes next to nothing tangible. I don't understand how this person was hired, or how they haven't been fired yet. Story 17. My next-door neighbor works in a power station. His job is to sit in front of a monitor and make sure everything is working well. If something goes wrong, he calls the appropriate workstation, and they fix the problem because an alarm sounds if something is out of sync, which rarely happens. He is able to play games or read a book 99% of the time. He is on $150 per hour to basically play games and chill at work. People who are related to celebrities, how has their fame affected family gatherings and events? I had an aunt that had a role in a commercial. It was for Life Touch. She was the old lady lying on the ground who said, "I've fallen and I can't get up." She was a scream and must have done that line 1,000 times during our family dinners, even though everybody in North America has seen that commercial dozens of times. She only got recognized a couple of times. She was once recognized in a mall and laid down on the floor and said the line. People were cheering and clapping. My wife is a distant relative of Tom Hanks. It doesn't affect her at all. It affects me because she reminds me of it every time he is mentioned on the TV. Related to Kings of Leon through marriage. Pretty cool group of guys. We have a family reunion every May and hang out and play horseshoes, etc., just like everyone else. It's kind of funny because even here in my tiny little town, they still act like they're going to be bombarded by fans, but literally nobody recognizes them. My uncle is Steve Smith, aka Red Green, the Canadian handyman comedy show from the 90s. We used to all gather in the 90s and 2000s when our generation had wedding season. He was always the life of the party, without ever trying. If there was a lull in the conversation, he'd pipe in with something hysterical and have the whole table laughing. Never tried. He was just a natural and would never interrupt anyone else. He is a very kind and wonderful guy. We'd go to tapings of the show and would howl, not only at the show, but at the countrified studio audience. It was all in good fun. I think the only effect it had at gatherings was on our very excited significant others meeting him for the first time. We only gather once in a while now as he is winding down a bit. He's in his 70s now and enjoying semi-retirement. The fam tells me that we bear a strong resemblance, which is nice. Spouse is related to David Tennant. I did not know this until after we were married. Not impacted my life at all, except I got to meet him during my first trip to London. Their family scored us tickets to Much Ado About Nothing, and we saw David Tennant and Catherine Tate after the show. Nothing bad to say about either of them. They were both lovely and effusive, and Tennant gave us both a hug even though neither of us had ever met him before. Spouse had a brief chat about mutual acquaintances in the family, and then we left. My grandfather was Charles Schulz, the creator of Peanuts, Charlie Brown. I don't really know how it affected my family gatherings because my family hasn't been together for a long time for other reasons, but I do know that for a few members of the family, the comics are really important to them, and they really pride themselves in their involvement with them. Not me, but one of my friends is an Indian woman who moved here with her family when she was a little kid. When she graduated college, her parents started asking her when she was going to get married and introducing her to the sons of their friends, hoping they'd hit it off. Eventually, it worked. They introduced her to a really nice guy who was also born in India but lived in the same state as us most of the year. She didn't find out until a month or two into the relationship that he was a famous Bollywood star. He was just completely unknown in the US. They're married now, and it seems like such a strange dichotomy. When they're in the US, they live the same as any other wealthy American couple. But Indian tabloids covered their wedding and interviewed her to see what kind of woman would attract such a star. When they walk into a restaurant in his hometown in India, the owner will sometimes shut down so they can eat alone, and will give them the meal for free because it's worth it just for the publicity that they ate there. My friend is pretty quiet and a bit shy, so I think she's really glad that they live in the US most of the time. But it's definitely an interesting life, not to mention her parents are very happy. Megan Fox is my first cousin once removed. Her mother and my grandfather are brother and sister. She's 6 years older than me, so there are plenty of pictures of us playing together while growing up. But once she got to the point of puberty, she quickly shifted into modeling and moved from Tennessee to Florida to pursue it. She then got into movies and, as you know, made it rather big. The last time she was in town to visit was about 12 years ago. She came for Christmas and everything seemed normal until she whipped out a stack of headshots that she had brought to sign for us to take back to our friends and such. She did make a point to call my grandfather when he had his heart attack back in 2014, so not all is lost in fame. The headshots thing was just a tad comical. My aunt is Xena, the warrior princess, and absolutely nothing at family gatherings. She is just our aunt. We got stopped a couple of times in New Orleans by people who recognized her. Back in New Zealand, when her show was going on, some little girls would come up and want to take pics. She's one of the nicest people to talk to and never acts like a celebrity. I've gotten to do some very cool stuff in my life which I'll never take for granted because of her kindness. Hey Lucy, I'll let you guess which one of us it is if you're out there. I'm related distantly to Elvis Presley. Went to the Presley family reunion years back. It was freaking stupid. Tried to get me to pay $20 for a plate of food at a family reunion. Related to Keanu Reeves. We have a Reeve Ohana gathering every year in Hawaii, and he never comes, which I don't blame him for at all. His dad was not a good father, so I assume besides being a busy actor, he didn't come because that burned the bridges with our family. My dad sometimes mentions Keanu when the reunions happen, about how he doesn't visit. It's not in a bitter way or anything, just sometimes little cousins ask. I haven't met all my family in Hawaii yet because I live on the mainland, but I do know at least a few people are salty about it. Other than that, my cousins look up to him and get excited when he's in a movie. Even if the kids aren't allowed to watch because of violence, they see a movie poster and look all awestruck. So cute. Kind of unheard of, but Alex Pietrangelo, professional hockey player, is my stepbrother. Usually see him during the summer, and we go out on his boat. Swell dude. Related to Dwayne Johnson, regularly smell what he's cooking. My ex was related to Seamus Heaney, an Irish poet that was very famous in Ireland. From what I understand, we stayed at his house a few years ago and I had never heard of him. He was just lovely, like a grandpa you would love to have. Very humble and a normal house. Ex's mom kept bigging him up, but Seamus and his wife were just normal people. The weird thing was walking into bookstores and seeing his face everywhere, then going back home to have lunch with him or chat with him about life. I say this without any condescension whatsoever, but this guy's poetry is taught in English classes all over Europe, not just the UK and in Ireland. He's probably the most famous contemporary English language poet, at least over here in Europe. I guess from what you said, you probably read some of his poetry, but if you haven't, I'll recommend it. My dad is first cousins with Tommy Mottola, formerly Mr. Mariah Carey. Tommy used to provide free tickets to concerts for the various stars he represented, Carly Simon, Hall & Oates, but as more and more people had their hands out, the more he retreated. My professor last semester turned out to be Matt Damon's stepdad. School gossip says he canceled class for J-Lo and Ben Affleck's wedding and then abruptly uncanceled it when the wedding didn't work out. My cousin is Danny Mathers, the Playboy model who took that picture of the woman in the gym. We hate her. My ex-wife is related to Richard Ramirez. Yes, the Night Stalker. He comes up at every single family gathering, big or small. They would talk about him for hours. Same stories, same reactions. As the years went by, he slowly started to disappear from the conversations. Then he goes and makes national news when he dies. We were already divorced when it happened, but that did not stop her family from reaching out to me telling me in detail all about his life and death. It still comes up every time I come across any of them. Can't tell if it's pride or sorrow. Not really a celebrity, but my uncle is one of the first dozen people Bill Gates hired to start Microsoft. He's stupid rich now, but spends his time being super generous with his money to family and advocating for the protection of national parks and a healthy environment. Probably the nicest and most down-to-earth people I've ever met. He never buys anything unnecessary if he can help it. He does all he can to make his house 100% environmentally friendly. He's pretty awesome. You'd never know that he helped change the world. My girlfriend's cousin is on Orange is the New Black. Got to watch her place in New York once. She can't get me Kate Mulgrew's autograph, so she's dead to me. My uncle played for the Toronto Maple Leafs as a goalie in the 80s and 90s. The other NHL teams a bit later. He stayed pretty down to earth about it. Realistically, he was never incredibly famous. He was just part of our family. He moved to Orlando a while ago and had a falling out with some people. I haven't seen him or his daughters in probably a decade or more. Now he only comes up because fathers of people I know recognize my unique last name and don't know why. A few times people asked right away if my uncle and I are related, but it seems those times have passed. My dad's cousin is an actor with a couple of hundred IMDb entries who's currently playing a role in one of my favorite TV shows. Don't want to say his name because it's the same last name as mine. I've met him 3 times. He lives in LA, and every time he comes back to town, one of my uncles will throw a dinner party for him, and the entire extended family will show up. It's really the only thing that can make that happen. Really nice guy though, a great storyteller. A distant relative wrote Beverly Hills Chihuahua. I'm sorry. My neighbor when I was 12 was the guitarist for Matchbox 20 around when they were all over the radio. My dad plays a lot of guitars, so he would go over and they would play for a few hours and chill. Got to meet the rest of the band and they were all really cool down-to-earth guys. Did you get to meet Sinbad? Matchbox beat his testicles! I'm relatively closely related to J.K. Rowling, and to be honest, it doesn't affect family gatherings at all. Either people whisper about her from afar or go up and have a conversation with her. Most people don't make a big deal of it, and she does the same and just chats with anyone that speaks to her. The biggest reaction I ever got is when someone finds out I'm related to her. I facetiously asked my best friend if he had a rich uncle, and he said, actually, his uncle is a best-selling author. I couldn't believe he never mentioned it before. It's out of respect for him that I'm not boasting about the name right now. There have been quarrels over characters that allegedly resemble family members in ways they felt were less than flattering or too direct from life. You plagiarized my divorce! We're dating now, and he's taking me to a family reunion in August. I'm already starstruck. My cousins are in the band Cage the Elephant. My cousins are so down to earth that their fame doesn't really affect our family. We are all so close, even though we live so far away, and they invite us to their concerts when they're in town. I will say when we plan family reunions, everyone's first question is, will the boys be on tour then? Of course, this is because everyone wants all the family there, and my cousins are usually the busiest out of everyone with schedules that are pretty finite. Overall, it has brought us all closer to having such successful people who worked hard in our family. My dad is very proud of his nephews, and is always promoting their music, which is cool. My wife is a childhood friend with the family of Viggo Mortensen. She got to hang out with him after he shot Lord of the Rings, but before it was released. Said he was a very cool guy, extremely laid back, and fun to have a drink with. Her friend spent her childhood hanging out with him on summer vacations and has yet to have a bad thing to say about him. I refuse to believe that Aragorn could be anything less than a great guy. Dude bought a woman a horse that was used in the Lord of the Rings movies because she loved it so much, but she couldn't afford to bid on it at the auction. We had to have a freaking Daily Mail journalist at a family reunion lunch once. I hated that. Late to the party, throwaway, not so much to protect my identity, more so to protect my main account. My dad is a former, although not officially retired, professional wrestler. He signed to WWE, is in the WWE Hall of Fame, and is good friends with someone on a popular TV show that airs on A&E. My dad's fame has affected me, and at the same time it hasn't. My parents moved us to a very, very rural small town to raise my sister and me as normally as possible. The main difference between me and 90% of the other people that live here is we are extremely wealthy, though we try not to flaunt it. I get cool perks sometimes, movie premieres, backstage to any WWE event, being at parties with more well-known celebrities. I've had a few teachers subtly offer me a higher grade for an autograph. My dad got recognized a lot more when I was younger, but I only remember bits and pieces of that. My mom is a substitute teacher in our local school district, so really, when here, she gets recognized more than he does. Distant family calls and asks for stuff occasionally. I've led a pretty normal life for the most part. My life is more hectic when we go out with his friend. He has a very distinct look. Even if you've never seen the show, you can tell what show he is on just by looking at him. When he comes to visit, he gets bombarded, especially because of where we live, and nobody glances at my dad unless they are a hardcore wrestling fan. His glory days were late 80s and 90s, but he's still involved with WWE occasionally. This probably isn't that exciting, but my grandmother's cousin is Bob Hope. Hey, something I can meaningfully contribute to. My uncle is Sinbad, the comedian/actor. He is married to my biological aunt on my dad's side, so I am not his blood relation, but his kids and wife are blood related to me. It actually hasn't. We go on vacations with them every summer and have for the past 6 years or so. We didn't for a while when he and my aunt were separated, but after they got back together, we saw that family at least once a year. Just got back from a vacation with them on Sunday actually, and we went on a Royal Caribbean cruise. At first, it was a little annoying having to stop every couple of minutes because someone asked for a picture, but eventually he stopped posing for pictures while with us. He just says, "Sorry, I'm with my family now." Nothing terribly exciting, but he has been famous since I was born, so I didn't get a before and after experience. The coolest thing was definitely going to Disney/Universal with him. We got the VIP treatment and skipped every line. We rode dueling dragons probably 5 to 7 times back to back. 3 of us barfed. It was great. My coworker is a distant cousin of Vanilla Ice. She hasn't seen him in years. The last time she saw him was at a wedding when they were both older kids. She remembers him acting like a jerk and pushing somebody into a pool. My uncle is Dr. Demento. He's a really cool guy, insanely knowledgeable about music and music history. He is totally cool at family gatherings. Some family reunions I've been to have been in Preston, Idaho, where Napoleon Dynamite was filmed. They're not celebrities, but I guess we have a couple of family members who were in the movie, and the chicken farm Napoleon works at is owned by a family member as well. Naturally, the movie is a frequent topic of conversation at the reunions. I have a cousin who was a former pop starlet and minor TV personality back in the old country. She live tweeted our grandmother's funeral. I remember thinking, frickin' millennials, man. Robin Sparkles? Apparently, Janet Horne, the last witch to be executed in Britain, is my 4th great-grandmother. I only recently just found out after her name was scoured out of the old family Bible tree. My 105-year-old great-grandmother was not allowed to talk about her when she was younger. My cousin was Miss Universe. She got a lot of attention at family gatherings, which are like every weekend in Puerto Rico, but that was about it. The Simpsons. My mom's second cousin is/was a writer for The Simpsons, Tim Long. I got 2 signed t-shirts. Garrison Keillor, who hosts a Prairie Home Companion, is a relative of some kind. I've met him when I was really little, but I do remember he was awesome at reading children's books because of his voice. Apparently, some members of the family don't like him because he doesn't hand out freebies, tickets, backstage invitations, etc., and is generally protective of his work. I have no idea, as I haven't seen him for over 20 years. I once got invited to McDonald's and I was going to get some McNuggets when I met Ronald freaking McDonald. He signed my Big Mac and we chilled with the Hamburglar. Did this affect my life? Not at all. My 3rd cousin on my mom's side is Rob Borden, drummer of Linkin Park. I met him once in 2001 at a family party, literally right before In the End got big. I was like 5, but he was so nice to me, especially since it was shortly after our grandfather's death, and I was taking it pretty hard. Unfortunately, a lot of the more Catholic folks of my family got pretty pissy at him because he announced an interest in Judaism. I haven't spoken to him since. I would love to talk to him, but I don't want to look like those family members who would probably want a handout. My stepdad is Professor Brian Cox. Some of his old school friends treat him differently, but that's probably normal for fame. My aunt on my mom's side posts on Facebook about how he's her brother-in-law pretty often to get attention. She's gone pretty nuts, and that's the least she's done for attention and sympathy. And my dad directed Brass Eye Snuff Box and Toast of London. Not really a celebrity, but one of my high school friends won Face Off. She's extremely talented. I personally know someone who went to high school with Taylor Swift. He says she was a total weirdo and actually a total asshole, and no one liked her. I live in the US, but my aunt Konkana Sen Sharma is a very famous Indian actress, upcoming director, and my grandmother is a world-recognized director, but much better known in India. I don't go to India at all that often, so I'm not very affected by my relation to them, but once when I was in India, we were at a coffee place and these 2 girls came up to my aunt wanting an autograph. I felt really awkward and confused because this hasn't ever happened to me before. I was also so confused because I've never gotten the sense that they were celebrities because they acted like regular people. I always feel like celebrities just act in a different manner than other people. I realized why I thought that after seeing the interviews of my aunt and grandmother that my mom watched sometimes. They acted differently, in the way you'd expect celebrities to act during interviews or talk shows than how they had ever talked to me. My first cousin on my father's side is James Roday. He has always been the type of guy, even as a kid, we all knew was going to be famous. He just always had that it factor, so when he became famous, those of us in the immediate family just saw it as an end to the means. The only uncomfortable thing to happen at a family function was at my grandmother's funeral. It was obviously a very emotional time, but my brother's wife at the time didn't see it as such and was taking an opportunity to snap as many selfies and candid "look at me with Sean from Psych" photos as possible. He was very tactful about it though, and graciously granted her as much as he could handle until my brother made her chill out. Jamie is a good dude, man. Definitely one of the people in my life that I am most proud of because he earned every bit of fame and fortune he has received, all the while staying incredibly humble. I'm a descendant of John Milton, the poet, Paradise Lost. You know that music video with the guy on the boat with all the bikini babes? Well, my life is like that, except the boat is our basement and the babes are my mom. Weird Al Yankovic is my second cousin on my mom's side, but I've never met him. His mom or grandmother or something moved to California a long time before either of us were born, so that part of the family isn't connected to us anymore. My uncle is an actor, most notably the dad of the werewolf kid, the guy in the wheelchair. That's my uncle. He was in Hell or High Water recently playing opposite Jeff Bridges. Bunch of other stuff too. No, it doesn't really affect family gatherings. He's taken my other uncle and cousins to a premiere or two. Never me, though. Not a celebrity per se, but my mom's cousin is the current CEO of Kroger. I guess that it's close enough since he's rich as hell and was in a Macy's Thanksgiving parade a couple of years back. I've never met him. He's very good to his mom, though, despite the fact that she lives in the middle of nowhere, Appalachia. His very existence does color a surprising amount of conversations, though, mainly in the vein of my family telling me that I'm lazy. Don't I know that he started out bagging groceries? Don't I know that he worked so hard and was so loyal to the company that it eventually paid off? Working 6 days a week and being repeatedly passed over for a promotion is no excuse. Work 7 days a week, triple shifts. Rodney would. Considering how quiet and nice they also told me he is, I gotta wonder what he would think about that. My uncle is Peter Weller, aka RoboCop. Every time we go out to dinner, he tells these really cool stories about all the other famous people he has met and how he's friends with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's really cool to listen to his stories for hours on end. I have two aunts on Real Housewives. They were always gaudy and trashy before, still gaudy and trashy now. We avoid them as much as possible. Also, my great uncle on the other side was Ernest, a la Ernest Goes to Jail, Jim Varney. Doesn't affect me because he passed away a while ago. Affects my boyfriend because I bring it up every time we see any of his movies. Late to this, but my friend's uncle is Will Smith. Apparently he doesn't really speak to much of his family anymore because they were always asking for money and whatnot. My stepdad is Rowan Atkinson, the guy who played Mr. Bean. Anytime there's a family gathering of any significance, he puts on the suit and shows up as Mr. Bean. He won't break character the entire night, and it is impossible to have a conversation with him. He says he does it for the kids, but it's obvious he enjoys it. I think he misses doing the show. My husband is Jason Rubin, creator of the video game Crash Bandicoot and the company Naughty Dog. I'm very proud of him. He is a very kind person and also the smartest human I've ever met. Also very funny. Sometimes people recognize him and that makes me very proud. One of my best friends is the daughter of a pretty successful actor in Hollywood. Her parents got divorced when she was 5 or 6. We're 21 now, and when he remarried another actress a few years later, he pretty much cut her and her brother out of his life. He came to our high school graduation, but other than that, she only really hears from him over email once or twice a year. One of my cousins was a fairly significant gangster. During my grandfather's funeral, he showed up with about 20 dudes in black suits. Our family offered them some food, and one of the dudes politely declined to say we don't eat until the boss says we eat. The dude who said this was in his 50s, and my cousin was barely 30. My sister was famous in the early 2000s. She was on a show and interviewed by a bunch of big-time nightly hosts about every magazine. But she was still my sister. How I felt about her didn't change. It was annoying going out because people would always stop and ask for pictures. I met somewhat famous people hanging with her, got free tickets to things. Mostly, I remembered her kicking me off the computer because she had emails. Well, it was my turn on the computer and I was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. My uncle's not exactly a celebrity, but he works in Hollywood and has directed a couple of pretty big movies, and I think some TV, written some stuff and worked on some freaking big classic movies and TV shows. He still works there, but now he's also written a fantastic book and teaches all over the world. I think he started designing theme park stuff for film properties, but I'm not sure. He seems to thoroughly enjoy his life. The perks are killer. He's friends with some of the biggest people in entertainment. One flew him to another city to see his show and hang out. I assume he's good on money. They're pretty low-key. He and his wife take killer vacations all the time. He travels all over the world for work, and he and his wife are some of the nicest down-to-earth people and are very close to the family. I've received some killer swag from the stuff he's worked on that I've kept for years and years. I admired him more and more as I got older and started to understand what he did for a living and how he got there. He legit started at nothing, eating macaroni every night and working his ass off to get where he is. I think that's why he's so humble. My dad's cousin is a singer. He's huge in Mexico and Latin America and has sold out Staples Center. It's pretty cool. Never personally met him yet, but I know he comes to our big family reunions in Mexico. Not related, but I do martial arts, so I know a ton of former and current MMA champions. They coach or train at my gym/affiliation. It's still a smallish sport. Most people don't recognize them when we go to dinner or something. Most will just stop and ask for a pic if they do. The cool part is having them bring big-name celebrities. Met Channing Tatum and his wife, exactly as charming and cool off-screen. Jenna is even better looking in person if that's possible. Ludacris, Dave Bautista, Bruce Lee's sister, and a few more people. I'm just another face to them, but still an awesome experience anyway. Met some fighters that were assholes on screen but quickly learned how quiet they were in person, and that was just for show. It sucks hearing people trash on them once you get to know them. Almost all the fighters I know are great people. My first coach had the UFC frick up his drug test and was accused of doping. Even once he cleared his name, that damage is hard to reverse. People attacked his wife and kids on Twitter and social media, death threats, because they're not big enough to be untouchable. It's a lot more personal when they're a target. I'm a distant relative to Gandhi. My great-uncle said that his mom told him that Gandhi was a nice guy when it came to his village and people, but was an asshole to his family. What's your never again story? Once I made 2 terrible food decisions in a single day. This was years ago when I was in my mid-20s. I woke up hungry and went to the fridge to grab some leftover Taco Bell, but I'd accidentally forgotten it in the car overnight. Still, I thought if I microwaved it, it'd be fine. So I ate a Taco Bell chicken quesadilla that had been sitting out for over 20 hours. Just as I was finishing it up, my buddy called and begged me to join him on a just friends hang session with a girl that he was trying to date. They wanted to go to this Asian seafood place I'd always seen driving by but had never been to. So we go, and they have a kind of mini seafood super platter that's meant to feed the whole table like a super sampler. We get that. It's supposed to feed 6, but we finish it off as a party of 4. That afternoon, it began. My friend called and asked if I was feeling bad from the seafood, and I told him yeah, but it was probably something from earlier in the day for me. He said, yeah, we are feeling a little queasy too, but we've got tickets tonight, so we're gonna drink water and go for it. I got a date, woo! I wished him luck and went back to Fallout 3. By midnight, I thought I was going to turn inside out. It was so bad, I would have called 911 if my phone had been in the bathroom with me, but it was on my nightstand and I physically could not get to it. I could hear it ringing occasionally, so I hoped that whoever was trying to call would stop by and take me to the hospital. It was the longest night of my life, but by early afternoon the next day I was coming around. I tried to stay hydrated by letting shower water run into my mouth during the event. The toilet was right next to the tub, and I could sit and hang my head into the tub at the same time under the shower head. So I just ran the shower on my head, crapped my guts out the back, and vomited my soul out the front. Turns out the calls late at night were my buddy calling to come pick them up because they both had accidents at the concert on their first date. They are married now. This was before Uber or Lyft, in case anyone is wondering. They finally managed to get his uncle to get them. Never again. 103 temperature, sicker than a dog from the flu, and constipated. I was miserable. I took 4 fiber pills in the morning and had hallucination fits for the next 4 to 5 hours, desperately trying to get some sleep. I took an Ambien sleeping pill, extra strength. Woke up 9 hours later, not constipated anymore and having to do a crap load of laundry. I've told this story before, and it's probably not the type of story that you were expecting, but it fits the question, so here you go. Okay, so this requires a bit of backstory. When my wife and I first got together, we lived in a tiny apartment and shared a twin bed. This situation continued even after she got pregnant. This, of course, substantially reduced my sleeping area. We slept in a spooning position. One night, when she was about 7 months pregnant, I awoke in the middle of the night and tried to readjust the blanket to recover myself. It often would end up bunched between us, so I reached down to find it and pull it back up. There was some resistance, but I assumed that she had her foot on it or something, so I pulled harder and kept pulling, assuming it would come free any second now. At this point, my wife turned her head around and angrily asked what the hell I was doing. Turns out that I was not pulling the blanket. I had grabbed the back of her underwear and was forcefully pulling them up. I broke out laughing and couldn't stop for quite a while. She was substantially less amused, and even less so after my explanation. So the mistake that I will never make again is, never tell an angry, rudely awoken pregnant woman that you mistook her underwear for a blanket, especially if you're laughing hysterically at the time. Rode an Amtrak train from New Orleans to Washington, D.C. I thought I was a prodigy by choosing coach seating over a sleeper car or flying as I was saving some money by doing so. Jump forward to 25 hours in the same seat, the dude next to me pulling a Germany versus Poland invasion in the armrest, the baby screaming all night in the back of the car, and I couldn't sleep. The toilet situation had deteriorated on board to the point where I would use my elbows and my boots to open and close the door and flush the toilet, as my fellow riders were baffled by the concept of flushing and utilizing a trash bin for paper towels. I've been awake 25 hours at this point, and it's 3:45 a.m. If I ever do this, it's gonna be in a sleeper car. Frick the savings. Murder on the Orient Express had the right idea. Took an Amtrak train from Montana to North Dakota, on a trip that was supposed to take 12 hours. Ended up taking 28 freaking hours due to mostly winter-related delays, and another 4 hours of which was a surprise stop and a search by heavily armed Border Patrol. It reached nightmare proportions when the food and beverage car ran out of everything. No food, no drinks. This was about 15 hours in. First time I felt the pains of true hunger in my life. It was a very rural/scenic route and included only one stop, which happened to be the one place they moved quickly. 15 minutes at 3 in the morning. The lone vending machine at that podunk station was rushed and empty before we even got within 5 feet of it. It was a specific kind of hell. Even after the trip out ended, the nightmare didn't. Amtrak canceled the return voyage due to weather for 7 days, which in turn caused the buses to sell out for the entire week, and every rental car in the region was taken. After desperately searching for 2 days, we found one luxury car available to go out west from the airport at $400 a day. We had to get back to work and had no choice. The car was rear-wheel drive, and we spent the next 12 hours with white knuckles drifting all over the highway because Amtrak hung a full train of people out to dry. The irony was, the whole reason we took the train was to avoid driving in winter conditions. Only our cars were far better equipped than the sports car that we got shafted with. Never again. I was once in a bet to do an apple juice challenge, in where I had 30 minutes to drink a gallon of apple juice. Not too hard, right? Easy $5 to be made? Not so much. What my friends didn't tell me is that when you drank so much apple juice in such a small amount of time, it all needs to exit the body butthole style. What followed were the most intense volcano-blasting, a-hole destroying hours of my life. It was like a fire hose spraying acid that some peenhead lit on fire. I didn't complete the challenge. I lost $5 and I even paid for the apple juice. Never freaking again, apple juice. Never again. When I was 6, I distinctly remember my mom saying, "Don't lick that grill, Aaron, or it will really hurt." I licked it. Timeshare presentation. I now know what hell is like. 8 hours of my life I'll never get back. And of course, the free trip was impossible to get. We will call you on Monday sometime in the next 2 months. Then you need to fly out on Tuesday and come back Wednesday. Went to a timeshare presentation in Mexico. The guy hit us up leaving the airport. As this was not our first time, we entered the room with the lady who was pitching and told her, "In all honesty, we will listen to your pitch, but we are not buying anything. We are only here for the free stuff." She was mad, told us that we were wasting people's time and gave us the vouchers and told us to leave, but not before I chewed her out about blindsiding people who had just got off a plane and were looking forward to a vacation. Totally worth it, and didn't even have to listen to the hour-long pitch. My dad had a retired friend who would go to these for freebies. When the presentation started, he would pull out his hearing aids and set them on the table in front of him. Some salesmen would still go through the whole presentation, but others would just give up after a few minutes. I don't drink Southern Comfort anymore. I don't remember why, and that's part of the reason. I can relate to this. Southern Comfort was my favorite drink for years. Then suddenly, it wasn't. I genuinely don't think anything crazy happened that last night I drank it. It was just a wasted night at a small house party, but just the smell of SoCo has turned my stomach ever since. It smells a bit like puke. Asking a woman when her baby is due doesn't really need a story. It went as imagined. Never again will I ever loan money to a friend. My mom gave me some stellar advice. Don't lend money, give it, and when you get it back, it's a bonus. That is actually how I live my life. I've loaned my friends plenty of money over the years with no expectation to have it paid back. Some have and some haven't. Usually by the time I get it back from the ones that do, I've completely forgotten I even loaned it to them in the first place. So it's really just like surprise bonus cash at a random time determined by a friend. Just came back from a 3-week backpacking trip with 5 other people. The trip was originally just 3 others, my boyfriend, brother, and cousin, but 2 friends wanted to join. Jesus Christ, you gotta keep those trips intimate, and preferably with family. The 2 add-ons didn't want to do any of the same stuff we did, couldn't keep up, didn't want to try any local food, complained about walking, only packed flip-flops, commented after 30 minutes at the Louvre that it was just a bunch of painting, etc., etc. Worst mistake, the original squad all chanted "never again" at least 50 times each the entire trip. So yeah, never again. I wonder what's inside the medicine capsules. What if I just eat that directly instead of swallowing the pills? Empties onto tongue and promptly gags. You need to be careful with that. With some medicines, they are designed to be time-released. That is a good way to overdose. Back in the days before soft contact lenses, you were supposed to clean them with hydrogen peroxide and then use a special neutralizer tablet afterward. I forgot to use the neutralizer tablet before I put in my contacts. Hydrogen peroxide in your eye hurts. Still use hydrogen peroxide-based cleaner for my soft contacts. Every now and then it gets me. Terrible feeling. Need to get your contacts out because they're burning your eyes so badly. Eyes are burning so bad that you can't open them to get the contacts out. Super sucks. Every man eventually learns the lesson that muscle rub should never be used to treat a groin pull or similarly placed ailment. Cave exploring, the severe kind with lights, helmets, and occasional crawling. Fascinating while you're doing it, but scary as hell in hindsight. Ample opportunities to get seriously injured or worse, in the last place in the world you'd want to be rescued from. A few years ago, I was leading a missions trip to Vietnam/Cambodia with a large group of 20-somethings. There was a dude on our team who was a recovering heroin addict. I had no idea, but leadership knew and did not inform me. In light of this and his issue with alcohol, leadership had the brilliant idea to move him from the Japan team and move him to the fricking Vietnam/Cambodia team, so he would be with the guy that they felt had a positive influence on him. If you've never been to Saigon, you can't go a block in the touristy areas without being solicited to buy some sort of drug or a prostitute. Shockingly, he used heroin again and convinced another one of our students that heroin is awesome and he should totally try it. We had to send them both home. It freaking sucked. I worked as a tower hand for a construction company. I used to take off my lanyard and move between booms, 500 to 600 feet up. I also would slide down the outside legs untethered because it was faster than climbing down the ladder. I cringe when I think about that. There was a 0% chance of survival if I fell. So you're the reason everyone has to watch those safety videos. I went down to the pantry of my grandma's house and ate 45-year-old peaches from a jar. Did you know the human body is capable of crapping peaches in roughly the same consistency that they were consumed? Me neither. Elementary school age, during the 80s, my great-uncle gave my dad a jug of homemade wine. He put it right next to the apple juice. I got lit up despite insisting that this apple juice tasted weird. Went off to school. I'm never drinking wine again. I lost my virginity once. Never again. 19th birthday. Fake ID, 8 Irish car bombs. Yes, 8. Ended up throwing up in the passenger seat of my Pontiac Grand Am. Insisted I be dropped off at my ex-boyfriend's apartment and knocked on his door completely naked. Woke up hugging the toilet at 3 p.m. the next day with my first ever hangover in the apartment my ex-boyfriend shared with his new girlfriend. She lent me some clothes to go home in. Nice gal. I bartended for years afterward, and I refused to make an Irish car bomb my entire bartending career. The smell of Bailey's still makes my stomach turn. Never again. Had a Baconator for lunch and dinner 3 days in a row. I was working long shifts and there was a Wendy's across the parking lot from where I was. After I finished dinner on day 3, my body said, "You must crap now." I crapped my pants running to the bathroom. Had to clean up and head back to work with no underwear. 0 out of 10. Though I occasionally went to work commando on hot days after this. Maybe it would have been a good idea to explore the rest of the Wendy's menu instead of going on an all-Baconator diet. I was in Reykjavik, Iceland, and I was bar hopping and ended up in some sort of Viking metal bar. It wasn't really my scene, but I was having a when in Rome moment. Anyway, at some point during the set, this super intimidating looking Viking dude calls for his thrall, and this chick comes out holding a vat of what I hope was sheep's blood. He reaches into the vat, smears the blood on his face while screaming something in Icelandic, and then flicks his hands, sending little blood splatter onto the crowd. I've never noped out of a place so hard. Never again will I engage in any sort of eating race. About 10 years back, I worked for Walmart, and my coworker and I would always take breaks together. I think he and I were in a constant unspoken competition to be the weirdest Walmart employee. We both wore fake name tags, and we'd used the paging system inappropriately. But all in all, we were hard workers, so our bosses never got onto us. Well, one day in the break room, we decided to have a race that involved eating a cinnamon roll and chasing it with a full cup of maple syrup. We had a small audience for the event. We were sitting across the table from each other when someone said go, and before I could even unwrap my cinnamon roll, he slammed down his cup of maple syrup. I asked him, "How did you eat that so fast?" He said, "I just swallowed it whole." I demanded a rematch and bought him another cinnamon roll from the vending machine. This time I was determined to win. Someone said go, and I shoved the cinnamon roll in the back of my mouth, grabbed the syrup and swallowed. But I didn't swallow. I inhaled the cinnamon roll into my esophagus and began choking. Everyone was laughing until I leaped up from the table, causing one side of the table to collapse, spilling multiple people's lunches onto the floor. Then I heard someone say, "Dude, she's choking." I pointed at that guy and vigorously shook my head as I stumbled around the break room, making the international sign for choking. I remember people saying, "Do something. Does anyone know the Heimlich?" No one was helping. They were just all in shock, watching me frantically hit myself repeatedly in the chest. It was then I decided to run as fast as I could into a counter and ram my ribcage. Then I just grabbed the edge of the sink and repeatedly used my arms to pull my chest to the counter and ram my ribs. After about 3 times, I spun around and a fist-sized cinnamon roll bullet shot out of my throat and splattered on the floor like a snowball. I took the biggest breath of air into my lungs after about a full minute of choking, and my coworker said, "You totally lost." The choking incident in the break room was all the talk around work for some time, and the fact that I high-kicked a table in half and wrecked about 4 people's lunches. I was reading that tea tree oil is antibacterial. I wanted to use it around my eyes since I recently had a tiny but painful infection in my eyelash gland. I did not read that it had to be diluted. I was beet red around the eyes. The burning would not stop. Dish soap and icing helped. It looked like I had just got hit in both eyes. My boyfriend's father gave us 2 bags of smoked venison sausages that his friend had made. We froze one and left the other in the fridge. I guess because it was smoked, I couldn't tell when it spoiled, so one day I had some, and not 20 minutes later I almost crapped my pants. I ran to the bathroom, and while I was pooping out my soul, I just started vomiting into the sink, which was luckily right next to the toilet. I spent the whole day in there spewing smoked vomit and poo, and I haven't eaten anything smoked or venison since. Doing a shots-only night. Closest I have ever come to death. My friend's place where we were staying was 4 blocks away. I barely made one before I collapsed on the sidewalk and passed out. They had to get a pedicab to transport me the rest of the way. You know it's going to be bad when you start off with a 4 horseman shot. Started smoking this year. At first, I thought I liked it, but then I realized it was a temporary effect, which just left a terrible taste in my mouth. Sports and singing also became harder, so I dropped it immediately, never again. Once I hooked up with a girl who claimed to be actively practicing a number of pagan rituals and religions, and also was somehow Buddhist. Ended up being nuttier than a squirrel turd. Tried to put a curse on me and stuff like that. Never again. As silly as it might be, I will always ask someone prior to sex if they claim to be or have at any point considered themselves to be spiritual, beyond their basic belief in God. Long story short, I made a batch of pot brownies with a good ounce of weed. I was a freshman in high school and had no idea what I was doing. I ate a brownie and felt nothing, so I decided that they were weak and ate the whole batch. Needless to say, that night I was moonwalking with Michael. No, seriously, I was so stoned. I was on the ground and I could literally feel my thoughts, and I couldn't move. I didn't even know if I was breathing. I was high for what seemed like the next 2 days. I walked up an escalator that was going down because I was too impatient to go down, then up again and turned around to look at my mom. Fell, had 4 holes in my leg, only realized it because my leg felt wet as blood was trickling down it. Now I don't walk on escalators and I'm terrified of walking on broken escalators that aren't moving. Alcohol. 25 years of heavy use is enough. Cigarettes too. I don't eat food that was shared in the common area at work anymore. I ate a jelly donut at work on a Friday thinking someone had brought them in that morning. Nope. Found out later that they had been around for a couple of days, which explains the staleness. Just thought it was a crappy brand of donut. I started getting the rumbles around 5:30 p.m., and by 6 I was trapped in the bathroom at work crying as I tried to figure out how to get home between insistent diarrhea at 5 to 10 minute intervals. I had to take 1 PATH train plus 1 subway ride. Couldn't Uber home either. Didn't want to be stuck in a tunnel, you know? Almost made it. I was 3 stops from home, sweating profusely and pale as a sheet, when some little kid opened a juice box that smelled like sickeningly sweet fake fruit. I clamped my mouth and managed to get out of the subway car before showering everything in a 3-foot radius with my lunch and 3-day-old jelly donut from hell. No one checked on me because they assumed I was just already wasted and sloppy, considering it was a Friday evening. I get food poisoning 1 to 2 times a year because I hang loose with refrigeration of leftovers, and eating at places with less than stellar city health grades / food trucks. But that was the worst to date. Haven't had donuts since either. Rubbing my eye after touching a hot pepper. I was having pho with my 2 friends when suddenly I felt an awful burning in my eye. I realized that I had rubbed my eye after breaking up a hot pepper to put in the pho. I immediately ran to the bathroom. I knew I had to take out my contact lens and then flush my eye out with water, but the pain was so incredible that I could hardly open it. My friend came to check up and found me soaking wet from tears, water that did not manage to get into my eye, and sweat. I eventually went to sit outside with my buddy, and after a while the pain subsided. The whole ordeal probably lasted for 20 to 30 minutes, and it was one of the most painful things I have ever experienced. I will never have pizza and soda more than once a day ever again. This new life rule was prompted by an event that took place after I began some new medication. I was prescribed Vyvanse for ADHD. Much like other ADHD medications, Vyvanse is a stimulant. A common side effect of stimulants is dehydration. I'd been drinking more water to compensate for this since I started. But things changed when my girlfriend was leaving town to visit family for a couple of days. I'd also had the entire week off of work, so I decided I would enjoy it as much as possible. I was gonna do what most men do when their significant other is gone for an extended period of time. Try to be the laziest human being in existence. For me, this meant playing video games and eating nothing but fast food. Particularly, I order a couple of pizzas and 2-liter sodas to get me through the week. Things were looking good for the first 2 days. I wake up on day 3, proceeding to resume my lackadaisical activities. I sit in my computer chair and immediately notice some pain in my testicles, as if I'd taken some impact to them, but nothing of the sort had happened. Over the next several minutes, the pain continued to grow in intensity. It became so bad that my body was entering crisis mode. I was sweating, my heart was racing, muscles were shaking, I was panicking. I had no idea what the hell was happening to me. This was going on for so long without any perceivable explanation that I hastily got dressed and drove straight to the ER. The hospital was just down the street from me, so I figured if I passed out from the pain, I'd at least be close by. As I get inside, I'm asked to fill out a form. This turned out to be a rather difficult task to complete while feeling as though my genitals were about to explode. Seconds later, my legs gave out. This was the signal that the ER staff needed to provide immediate attention. Apparently, the pained requests and profuse sweating weren't enough to convince them of that. I was sat in a wheelchair and taken into a room, and given an IV drip. An X-ray and one urine test later, I was told that they suspected that I had a kidney stone, even though they never found one in the X-ray. This would later turn out to be completely false, but I'll get to that later. I was prescribed a few pain medications including Percocet, and sent on my way. On day 4, being the deviant ruffian that I was, I decided to try one of the Percocet pills, despite not having any pain at the time. Interestingly, I was surprised to notice that hours after taking it, I felt nothing. I found this quite odd, but it made much more sense to me later on. The next morning, I was supposed to pick up my girlfriend from the airport. Unfortunately, as I woke up, I quickly realized that I was about to vomit everything I'd eaten since yesterday. Fortunately, my roommate offers to pick her up for me. A few minutes later after she leaves, I'm hanging over my toilet. So let's analyze everything. 1. I've binged on nothing but pizza and soda. 2. I'm on a medication that dries out my system. 3. The Percocet I took never metabolized in my body. It clicked for me. I never had a kidney stone because I was so dehydrated from the soda and medication, and I'd had an enormous amount of cheese, further blocking my digestion tract. I was massively constipated, so much that it was causing the pain to radiate into my testicles and prevented anything I'd eaten from making it past my stomach, including the Percocet. Massive testicular pain, projectile vomiting, and $1,100 in ER bills can make a good lesson that only needs to be taught once to be way more responsible with my body and not be so callously impulsive. I was taking a trip to London and saw it was so much cheaper to start my flights in Dallas, 5 hours away. So I drove there, left my car, and took my trip. Everything went awesome. I figured I could get back to Dallas after sleeping on the plane and just drove home, which was a dumb idea, and I eventually gave up and got a hotel. I left while it was still dark, driving through Oklahoma, and I saw a storm in the distance. Of course, I got stuck in that storm in the middle of nowhere. I couldn't pull over, and there wasn't any place to stop, so I had to power through till I hit the next town. It was raining and hailing so hard I couldn't see. My car would occasionally lose traction, and the radio informed me that there was a tornado watch in the area near me. It was one of the most terrifying experiences I've been through. I made it to the next town and got myself a Victory McGriddle and swore I would always pay the extra money to fly out of the smaller airport near my hometown. Went to Bruges. It's a lifeless tourist trap hole. I am now retired from bungee jumping. To explain, 10 years ago I was in New Zealand studying abroad, surprised myself by trying bungee jumping and loved it. The falling part sucked, but the neat part is during the bounce after you zoom up like Superman. So a few years later, I decided to try the world's biggest bungee jump in South Africa, and I swear it felt like the cord around my legs was slipping. Later, when I wasn't seriously freaking out for my life, I realized there was an emergency cord attached to my chest, so I probably would have been fine. But still, I'm definitely never doing it again. I know people say it a lot on here, but I honestly have not or will not ever pre-order a video game ever again. I've been burned out of $60 so many times. I won't even buy Injustice 2 because of the $100 edition having characters that you can't get in the standard. They don't make enough money already? Does a fighting game need to be $100 and have exclusives? I could talk about it all day, but it just sucks. Being poor has once again ruined my favorite hobby. I will never again attempt to enter a friends with benefits arrangement. My heart can't take it. I'm in my 40s and lied to myself for a long time about how I enjoyed it. Better to learn the lesson late than never, I guess. What do you have an extremely strong opinion on that is ultimately unimportant? There should be a federal law that if the manufacturer puts a sticker on a product, that sticker must be easily removed by the consumer with no residue left. In The Force Awakens, when Chewie and Rey return from their Starkiller base, Leia sadly realizes Han was killed, so she hugs Rey, not Chewbacca, Han's closest friend and someone Leia has known for years. It's bullcrap. Leia should have hugged Chewie. Chewie also didn't get a medal at the end of A New Hope. Clearly, Leia has something against him. Every construction site on which a new building is being built should have a sign facing the street that tells folks what that building will be when it is completed. And over here, somewhere in Europe, they do because the law makes them put up a sign detailing the building company, amount of floors on the building, the purpose of the building, rendered picture of the building, the chief engineer for the project, as well as estimated date of completion. Why do you have to register for damn near everything now? I had to register for GoPro's app just so I could use the camera, and pretty much everything else these days asks you to register. News site? Register pop-up before you can read the article. Saving Private Ryan lost Best Picture to Shakespeare in Love. It still makes me angry, and it's been like 20 years. The dishes in my house should be placed so they take up the least amount of space. Apparently the rest of the household likes to think otherwise. I am adamant that when you close a plastic or Ziploc bag, there should be no air inside. When I see people close a bag with lots of air inside, it makes me very unsettled. Pay to win has ruined the online gaming experience for sports games. If you live in a country that drives on the right-hand side of the road, you should keep right on the footpath. Allows for overtaking in less congested paths. Radio commercials should be banned from having any car sounds, honking, crash noise, or sirens. Too many times I've looked to see who is honking and then I realize it's the ad. I don't like using the word dongle in everyday out loud speech. Why the hell does satellite radio have commercials? What the hell am I paying you guys for? That really grinds my gears. Vanilla is an amazing flavor, and everyone treats it like it's just some basic crap that's expected. It's complex and rich and just a delicious flavor, but then we go around and describe the dullest and boring and normal things as vanilla, and it totally detracts from the flavor. Chocolate ice cream is good, and ice cream with things in it is okay, but if I had to choose only one ice cream flavor for the rest of my life, I'd choose vanilla in a heartbeat. Go take your chunky monkey somewhere else. Boneless buffalo wings are not wings. They are chicken nuggets in wing sauce. Websites that automatically sign you up for their crap spam list. Just don't assume that I am interested in every little update from you for a lifetime just because once I made the mistake of using your site for 2 minutes. Now they ask for Chrome notifications. Google dragged me here because no one else has what I want. I don't want your crappy clickbait on my desktop all the time. I barely put up with it for Facebook, and I kind of like Facebook. You toss off. Lately, there's a new kind of cancer when it comes to notifications. Some script on the page monitors your mouse, and just when it goes out of the page, it shows a full-page vibrating notification asking you to sign up for some crap. And even more egregious implementations include pop-up notifications with options like, "Yes, sign me up," and "No, I don't like to save money," instead of a simple yes and no. Laugh tracks. If it's funny, I'll laugh. If it's not funny, you playing a recording of people laughing won't convince me. Tuna is tuna. Don't call it tuna fish. Fellow ladies, please don't hover when you use a public toilet. In your awkward attempt to not get ass cancer from a once dry toilet seat, you left a smattering of piss for the next person to clean up or unwittingly sit in. Also, people who leave about half a roll of TP in the bowl without flushing, what the hell is wrong with you? Pianos should be tuned at least once per year, even if they're not played regularly. Otherwise, the strings become brittle and the tuning pins become unresponsive to holding the pitch firmly in place. And please, for the love of God, rent a violin from the violin shop for $20 a month instead of trying to bring your $90 eBay violin to lessons. $90 models are incapable of holding their tuning and will only frustrate you, especially if you're a beginner. And my students wonder why they sound terrible on the $100 flutes they bought at Costco. Of all places. Spoilers, it's because they can't play a D in any octave, and the foot joint keeps falling off. Pockets in women's clothing, sewn shut all the time, and even if you open them, they're still tiny, completely impractical. It's all a marketing ploy to force women to buy purses since we have nowhere else to put our phones, wallet, and keys. My girlfriend just bought a dress that has really deep pockets. She looked so happy when she tried it on and discovered the pockets as she'd just gotten the best news or a raise or something. People who cannot queue. Watermelon eating contests. I've never been in one myself and I never would. Why sign up for such a goddamn sham? It's not an eating contest at all. They should at least be honest and call it a slam and grind your face against a watermelon as hard and as fast as you can contest. Every time the winner is just some guy who just pushes his face against the watermelon so that it all breaks apart and liquefies and falls to the floor around him. Meanwhile, there's always another contestant sitting beside the winner who was a good, honest, upstanding citizen, genuinely trying to eat it and was about 5 bites in, and you can just see his naive faith in humanity is shattered in this dumbfounded look on his face as a judge lauds this blockhead next to him who just splattered his watermelon all over the floor. And if it isn't bad enough that the charlatans running these operations allow this to happen, the crowds all cheer and ooh and ah and share videos online where more people continue to comment about how crazy awesome it is someone could eat so fast. Jesus Christ, open your eyes, sheeple! If you're the mayor of a city or town, you should live in the freaking place. The mayor of my city lives a city over. How the hell can you decide what's best for the community if you're not even a part of it? Peacocks. They're just pigeons in drag and think they're so freaking special. I was pecked as a child. I too was traumatized by a peacock as a child. It was chasing me around a garden until it got distracted by its reflection in a mirror and stopped to attack that instead. LOL. As a chef, I hold 2 strong but unnecessary opinions. 1. When using steel on a knife, it's not sharpening, it's honing. You use a stone to sharpen. 2. Just because you're using a grill doesn't mean it's barbecue. Cookies and cream filled Oreos, like Oreos, are already cookies with cream. I know it tastes different, but it irks me every time I see them mentioned, and I don't know why. Telemarketing should be illegal. It's annoying. It's basically harassment. Getting 3 to 4 phone calls at 9 a.m. on your free Friday is not a fun way to wake up. And no, I don't want to buy the healing power of crystals for a really good price. I have reached a point where I just don't answer my phone if the number isn't saved in my phone book or is hidden. I suffer from mild anxiety, and I feel bad after I just close the call. I've moved beyond the politeness point where you say no almost infinitely. I shouldn't feel bad because most telemarketers are just glad they don't have to waste their time, but I still feel guilty. The thing is that you're expecting an important phone call and accidentally answer a telemarketer instead. Then your number seems to move up in their list, like bright red alerts go off in their system. We found a blockhead who answered. Let's all bombard that number, because once you answer that number, you start getting 3 to 4 calls a day for weeks. Sliced bread. Oh my god, sliced bread is one of the highest forms of capitalist control. Everyone's all like, X is the best thing since sliced bread. You know what that is? Brainwashing. Straight up brainwashing. What you gotta do at least once in your life, you gotta buy a full loaf of bread. You gotta buy that, cut yourself a thick hunk of yeast, pop that bad boy in the toaster, and butter it up real good. It's liberating. I swear you'll never go back to that thinly sliced tower of greed and lies. Bonus points if it's Irish batch. Breakfast of a true rebel. Frick sliced bread. How much I freaking hate the Minions. I really despise them, but most people love them or do not care that I hate the ever-living crap out of them. In my opinion, they were cute in the first movie before they got individual personalities and were just a horde of brainless yellow Tic Tacs. They were a funny concept, but as soon as people realized that they were marketable as hell, which was likely the plan all along, they just kinda overused what I saw as a joke you shouldn't overexpose. I'd say even in the second movie, they were alright. Then they got their own movie and they had to find a way for them to carry a movie. I don't hate them, but it's clearly cashing in on something kids latched onto. Charging for public toilets is against human rights and is discriminatory against people with certain disabilities. Public toilets, especially those in train stations, fast food restaurants, etc. that earn an income, should be free. The flying Koopa Troopas are not ducks with shells, as my wife asserts, but turtles with wings. There should be no red lights from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. unless they are absolutely needed. I drive a truck for a living, and it's infuriating having to sit for 2 minutes when I'm the only vehicle around. I don't like being around people when they're smoking weed. I don't care that they smoke weed. I think weed should be legal. I just intensely don't care for people who are high. Doesn't affect me in any practical way. I just really frickin' don't like it. You don't itch a mosquito bite. You scratch it because it itches. It's not that difficult. You could be itching to scratch your itch, but you can't be itching to itch your itch. Don't include an option to upload a resume if you're going to force the applicant to manually type in all of the information on the resume anyway. Holy crap, I hate this so much. Especially when it pulls the info from your resume but it fricks it all up, so it takes you longer to fix it than it would have to just type it all in the first place. Sharknado is not a so bad it's good movie. What makes a movie so bad that it's good, in my opinion, is that the people making it thought what they were making was good. They thought the choices that they were making were good choices, but they weren't good choices, they were bad, even laughably so. The reason The Room is so bad it's good, it's partly from the absurdity that the director thought his choices were genuinely good, even though they were bad. My point is, they have to have the intent of making a good movie for a movie to be so bad it's good. The people who made Sharknado knew it was bad. They were purposefully trying to make it bad. They were trying to manufacture a movie like Troll 2 or Birdemic, but you can't manufacture something like that on purpose. They tried to recreate it with Birdemic 2, and it didn't work. You can't fake something like that. People who could care less. Sirens should be illegal to play on radio commercials. I can't count the number of times I've mistaken them for actual sirens and started looking around to see where they were coming from. Kids shouldn't have smartphones. Allow me to clarify. Like many of you have said, I don't believe kids should have smartphones. I define kids as 12 and under. Elementary school age certainly should not have cell phones of any sort. I would be fine with parents getting their kids a dumb phone in middle school as a way to keep in contact. Like some people below said, something that allows calls out and SMS to mom and dad and a friend or two. A monitored smartphone around 14 would be okay in my eyes. It's the kids 12 and under with fully functioning smartphones that blow my mind. So-called king-size candy bars. I don't know who decided that a king would totally be fine with slightly more candy and that's it. What royalty would really say, you know what? I'm feeling luxurious. I think today is a day for 4 Reese's Cups and 2 slightly smaller Snickers bars. If you want to call something king size, it should be at least an entire pound of candy. It infuriates me that real kings everywhere haven't stood together in the face of the Hershey Corporation trying to dictate their desires. People should let all the passengers off of an elevator before boarding. In Beauty and the Beast, Gaston has a line during a song where he says he ate 4 dozen eggs as a kid. That's 48 eggs. How is that not talked about? The difference between a dragon and a wyvern. A dragon has 4 legs and 2 wings. A wyvern has 2 legs in the rear and 2 wings, which it uses as its front legs. Smaug in the Hobbit movies? Wyvern. Skyrim dragons? Wyverns. Dragon Age is one of the only big games in recent memory to get it right. A few people have asked which canon or mythology I based my statement on. My preferred dragon lore is Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. My statement above was very general, but I'm always happy to get in depth for some dragons. So in D&D, dragon is a creature type that includes dragons, drakes, wyverns, linorms, and a whole host of other draconian creatures. The stereotypical dragons that you see on book covers and such are called true dragons. They are mainly divided into 2 groups based on the color of their scales. Chromatic dragons are red, blue, green, white, or black, and are evil. Metallic dragons are gold, silver, brass, bronze, or copper, and are good. True dragons are also highly intelligent and powerful spellcasters. That's what sets them apart from a lot of their lesser, more bestial kin, such as wyverns. I am still so mad that they replaced the lime Skittles with those piece of crap green apple ones. One of them somehow masks the flavor of every other piece in the bag. Why? What was wrong with lime? What the hell do we have to do to get the original Skittles back? Lime is back at Walmart for a limited time according to their Facebook page. Toilet rolls should always be facing toward you. If I'm pregnant, do not, for the love of God, touch my stomach without permission. I mean harmless in the grand scheme of things, but it's so invasive and I can't stand it. Leaving a flyer on someone's windshield or on their door should be considered littering, and the person/company who placed it there should be responsible or liable. 1. American public school teachers should be considered federal employees. There should be a set minimum educational requirement to become a teacher, and they should be paid according to the GS pay scale, a lot more than they are currently getting paid. 2. Police officers should be required to live in the district they patrol. I think people would be more willing to speak to an officer about criminal activity in their community if they saw the officer on a regular basis and have a rapport with them. Officers would be more inclined to protect and serve instead of enforce laws. There's a difference. if they have a vested interest in the community and the people therein. I dislike the word irregardless and the people who use it. People shouldn't be using social media to make themselves appear to be having a happy life. The odd complaint or funny picture is cool. I consider Facebook to be like an address book, and that's about it. People who regularly check into places, post every meal they eat, upload pictures of them at a party, it just seems like they're trying too hard. It seems like they're missing the moment by stopping and taking pictures. Live life, don't upload it. The last Harry Potter movie ended with Harry breaking the Elder Wand and throwing it off a bridge, which is not what happened in the book. He didn't even fix his own wand first. Why would they do this to me personally? Don't get me started on how badly they messed up the ending of the last movie. What happened to all of the helpers who showed up? And Grob? And the centaurs and house elves and hippogriffs joining the fight? And then, they took out the fight between Voldemort, Slughorn, McGonagall, and Shacklebolt. And then, instead of an awesome one-on-one confrontation in front of everyone, Harry defeats Voldemort outside in the courtyard, where no one is watching. Then he goes back inside and I guess everyone just assumes he won? Don't get me started, man! Voldemort dies and dissolves into smoke? Like, what? He is supposed to lay there dead so everyone could see him humanized. God damn it. Apple. I dislike the brand with a passion, but ultimately it's pretty pointless and doesn't affect me in the slightest. I was forced to use a Mac for my job. My earthy, crunchy boss thought it was cool, and eventually got banned from the helpline. They told my boss that I referred to it as a toy computer. I said I don't remember exactly what I said, but I would never have used the word toy. That would imply fun. Parents who let their kids kick the back of a seat at a sporting event or performance/movie should be jailed. The door to access the toilets in bars/restaurants, etc. should open outwards. Maybe it's just a UK thing, but after I've washed and dried my hands, I have to use a handle that must be covered in residue from hundreds of people that haven't washed their hands. Why not just put the hinges the other way around? Pisses me off every time. Adding to public restrooms, there shouldn't be a 2-inch gap between the door and the wall. I don't want people peeking in at me while I'm using the toilet. I don't agree with teaching children stupid names for their body parts. I sometimes think people out there think that if their child ever learns the word vulva, they will go around trying to screw anything that moves. People often treat the true names for genitalia and such like swear words, and sometimes I worry that this will give children unhealthy feelings and views on their body and sexuality when they are old enough to have views and feelings. I don't think children knowing the proper terms takes away from their childhood or makes them, as I said before, more promiscuous or anything. I just think stupid nicknames are weird, needless, and kind of creepy. I think it's especially screwed up when you can't use the word in the right situation and context to another adult as an adult. GIF stands for Graphics Interchange Format, not Graphics Interchange Format. I don't care how the inventor pronounces it, he's wrong. Unfrosted Pop-Tarts should be categorized as a hate crime. Humans owe fruit an apology for creating seedless fruit. Plants were like, hey my dudes, I'll create food for you. No charge. The only thing I ask in return is that you poop the seeds out and help me create more plants in more places. And hey, that means more food for you too. Humans obviously had the better end of the deal, and we still went, nah bro, we're gonna selectively breed and splice you for generations, just to create an infertile version of you so that we don't have to do the one thing that you asked of us. People are not walking on the correct side of the sidewalk when someone is walking towards you. It's the same concept as driving. If you're using a shared microwave, clear the time off of it when you're done. The foil on butter/creams, etc. should be removed in its entirety instead of just peeled back slightly. Also, there should be a tab to pull it off, so I'm not stabbing the middle and ripping it apart. I get very irritated at expensive houses for sale if the kitchen does not have a range hood. Hotel rooms or apartments should always be numbered based on their floor. First floor, 101. Second floor, 201. Semicolons. My English professor once said they are going out of style and will be almost obsolete within the next 20 years or so. I think they are fantastic writing devices. I use them whenever possible. Snapchat filters, or filters in general. I don't mind interesting effects or artistic photography, but heavily filtered pictures where features are blurred into some formless blob and eyes and features are cartoonishly imposed over them are soulless and unsettling to me. I also have to override my looks like a corpse marionette freakout response when encountering people with Botox. Looks like rigor mortis. Pretty much anything that looks human but has something completely off. Country music is not country, it's southern pop. Singing a pop song with a drawl and referencing country things does not make it country. Planet Fitness. Why do you not have paper towels in the bathroom? You make us use them to clean off the machines, so don't try to sell me with that trying to save the trees signage above your crappy hand dryers. Put the coin change in my hand before the bills, otherwise the coins slip and slide everywhere. Cereal before milk. I will fight until my last breath for this cause. I'm ultimately faster at walking than most people I know, and I always get dirty looks for trying to overtake people on a path. We should have fast walk lanes. Swords don't make that shing sound when you pull them out of a scabbard. Stop doing it, movie-making people. Also, stop putting swords on people's backs. You are never going to get that thing out without undressing. It looks silly. Look, you cannot have the AC on in the car when you have the windows down. You have to pick either one or the other. AC with the windows down is a literal waste, as the AC just pours right out of the car. Yes, you feel it on your skin for a second, but then it goes out the window. Waste of gas, waste of energy, waste of increased entropy, waste of everything. Pick a side, AC or windows down. Easter egg Reese's are better than the regular Reese's. I hesitate to post this here because this is more of a fact than an opinion. Suspenders and belts don't need to be worn together, ever. News articles saying just. President Trump just created a new executive order that outlaws freedom. NASA just announced discovery of a new star to go along with the thousands of other ones. In 2 hours, the just becomes irrelevant because nobody just did anything. Bagged milk. I grew up on the west coast of Canada and all of our milk is sold in cartons or jugs. I've been studying in Ontario now, and nearly all milk is sold in bags. Why? Liquids take the shape of their containers. That's why pretty much every drink is in hard plastic or paper or some variation. There isn't even a part of the bag that has more structure to it so it can stand up. So you also have to have your own pitcher to put the bag in. And every time your bag of milk runs out, there's a whole process of getting it into the pitcher correctly. You have to shake it a bit so no air gets trapped, otherwise the bag will shift and the milk could spill, and then you have to cut the bag open. Personally, I prefer to open up a carton and pour my damn milk. I can't see any benefits to having it, and it infuriates me and everyone I bring up this point to. Jersey numbers should have a structure. In soccer, especially during international tournaments, like the World Cup, etc., squad numbers are 1 to 23, with 1 through 11 defining a position for the most part. In any other sport, and the jersey numbers don't have any significance other than being the player's favorite number. Every time I voice this opinion, people don't know how to respond because it's the most pointless rant. Payday loans, auto title loans, and any other predatory lending should be against the law. T-shirts and polos should have no logos of the manufacturer on them. I don't buy any of those that have made me look like a moving ad. First-person shooters need to be played with a keyboard and mouse, not a controller. Tractors should be banned from the road between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m., and then between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. They travel slowly and cause tailbacks and misery for commuters. I actually loved Batman and Robin. It's unimportant because I've yet to meet anybody who also liked it. I hate fireworks. They're boring to look at and noisy to listen to. The only thing stupider than fireworks are people who take pictures of fireworks. Who's going to want to look at that picture? Voting booths in the United States should remove all party names from the ballots, and the names should be randomized, thus forcing voters to do their research before making a decision. The Oxford comma. It's simple, it's easy, and it must be used to understand certain things. Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I don't think it's very good, yet everyone is in love with it. The reason why they have insane flavors with a whole bunch of candy in it is because the base ice cream itself just isn't very good, and they need to spruce it up somehow. Grilled cheese must be cut diagonally. Any other way is barbaric. Cats aren't mean. They are lovely, perfect creatures. Orange juice should have juicy bits in it. If you can't handle the pulp, you can get out. That the only correct way to leave the toilet is with its lid down. Breakfast and people who claim to skip it. If you eat, then you are breaking your fast, and that meal becomes your breakfast regardless of what time of day it is. Wearing heavy perfume or cologne should be banned in public spaces. I can't stand smelling someone else's synthetic odor, and because sometimes it can trigger a migraine for me and many other migraine sufferers. Beauty and the Beast is a case of Stockholm Syndrome, and nobody seems to notice. People who go to nice steakhouses and ask for ketchup to dip the steak into. When we go to visit my in-laws, my aunt-in-law does this, and it makes me cringe. I have to hold back the urge to ask her what the frick she's doing. Toilet paper should be placed on the wall with the end of the roll facing front always. Being aware of other people, either in construction traffic or your local grocery store. If you need to stop and check your receipt, do not block the walkway or the doorway out. Also, don't stop in the middle of a crosswalk at a store to chat. To me, that's inconsiderate, and there are plenty of places out of the way to have that chit-chat. Pickles should never be served with anything, otherwise their juices from hell touch food and ruin it. Cheez-Its have no substitute. Cheese Nips and store-brand generics have no place even in the same sentence. Stop calling a computer a CPU. I've never bought Starbucks. When I was growing up in Eastern Canada, the biggest coffee chain was a Canadian company called Second Cup. When Starbucks expanded into Canada, they opened up stores next to literally every single Second Cup in the city in the span of less than a year. Their prices at the time were competitive with Second Cups, but they've progressively raised them over the years as they gained market share. To me, this kind of predatory corporate policy was despicable, and so I've boycotted them for my entire life. If a sitcom show has a laugh track, it's not a funny show. Black suits are appropriate for funerals and formal dinners, not day-to-day office work. Milk does not go in before the tea bag and water. Pop versus soda. I absolutely hate ketchup with a passion. People normally go crazy when they find out. Wear sunscreen. What is socially accepted when you are beautiful, but not accepted when you're ugly? Being the strong, silent type only works if you are handsome. People don't want to explore if there is any depth to you if you're not aesthetically pleasing. I am sure more good-looking people get away with crap personalities. Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy said it best. Ugly people are lucky. When someone loves them, they know it's because of what's on the inside. Beautiful people can never really tell. Literally just existing and talking to people. There's a guy at work named Sean. Sean is unfortunate looking. He's a redhead, he's balding, yet his sides and his back are pretty long. He doesn't cut his nose hairs, he's constantly red/pink, pot-bellied, and yeah, he kind of lingers around your desk and talks a bit too much. Problem is, we all kind of do that, you know, overstaying your cubicle visit or whatever. Everyone at work thinks he's creepy. They all think he'll shoot up the place or maybe will eventually be banned from entering a school zone. To be honest, Sean is sweet and a nice dude. He's your nerdy 40-year-old virgin type of dude. He's got a lot of friends from what I can tell on Facebook and practically zero work friends. He plays on different softball and bowling teams, goes out to bars with his friends, and from what I can tell, seems perfectly normal. I'll talk to him every so often, and he's a really nice guy. I visited his desk and he said I was the first person to visit him. He started here maybe 6 months ago. It's very unfortunate for him that people think of him this way. I know for a fact that if he was skinnier, had hair, and wasn't ugly, that people wouldn't think he was creepy at all. Wearing more revealing clothes. Taking your shirt off. If you live in a trailer park, it's very socially acceptable, hot or not. Being weird. People will tolerate a great deal of weirdness, strangeness, and psycho behavior from an attractive person, whereas these traits would be unforgivable in an ugly person. There was a social experiment conducted where a catfish profile of a beautiful blonde was created. When guys talked to her, the catfishers responded with the weirdest, most bizarre, off-the-wall, creepy answers, but guys still kept pursuing. People will tolerate a lot of weirdness if it comes alongside hotness. It's being quirky versus being, what's wrong with him/her? That's my beef with quirky characters on TV. The The attractive ones are seen as cute and special, and the unattractive ones are seen as basically inappropriate freaks, like Amy from The Big Bang Theory. But if she looked like Kaylee Cuoco, she would likely be a whole different character. Making a lot of eye contact or smiling at a stranger. People in the American South and Midwest don't know about this, since smiling is just a common courtesy. Wearing really short skirts. It's summer and plenty of people wear them. But when I wear them, I can't allow you to enter our restaurant dressed like this, sir. Yeah, same with cleavage. If a hot woman shows cleavage, it's cool, but if I show a little of cleavage, it's considered disgusting. Man boobs are boobs too. Going on about how inner beauty is more important than outer beauty. If you're attractive and say this, you're humble and empowering. But if you're ugly and say it, you're just seen as whining. To be honest, if an attractive person says this, I'll probably just think that they have no idea what they're talking about. Same as if a rich person says money doesn't really matter. Reminds me of the dinner table scene in The Aviator when Howard Hughes is talking to Kate Hepburn's parents. Mrs. Hepburn, we don't care about money here. Howard Hughes, that's because you have it. Mrs. Hepburn, I beg your pardon? Howard Hughes, you don't care about money because you've always had it. Weirdly being polite to the opposite sex. I'm generally a very polite and friendly person. When I was fat, men would constantly go out of their way to make sure I knew they had no interest, even though I hadn't given any hint of being interested and was already in a relationship. Now that I've lost weight, everyone is a lot nicer. A similar thing happened to me. I lost weight after high school. In my freshman year of university, girls who didn't give me the time of day in high school went out of their way to talk to me and stay in touch via social media. This super hot girl farted once in my high school class. People thought it was hilarious, and some of the football players hugged her and thought it was awesome. Later that year in English class, an overweight girl let a ripper go and was mocked and ridiculed and told she was disgusting. I went to school with an overweight, unattractive girl who sneezed and farted at the same time in school. She spent the next 2 years being called sneeze fart by everyone until she moved away. Being socially forward. Interrupting people while talking, hitting on people, giving unsolicited advice, etc. Being attractive gives you an automatic +4 to charisma. Saying you're ugly. If you're actually ugly, you just end up making everyone uncomfortable. If you're beautiful, people tend to fall over themselves trying to reassure you that you are beautiful. Being dumb. This is the one I came to say. Stereotypical dumb blonde or musclehead, you've still got your looks. Ugly and dumb? You're double fricked, man. To give a somewhat serious answer, boasting of your prowess. People are psychologically more inclined to believe someone good-looking is skillful at whatever they're claiming to be good at, despite no evidence. In fact, there's something called the halo effect that says along with beauty comes all sorts of other positive characteristics. We have a tendency to think beautiful people are funnier, more friendly, more intelligent, more exciting, in possession of better social skills, sexually warmer, are more interesting, poised, and even more independent. I think it's good to be aware of that. Like if we assume a beautiful person we know is a kind of Mr. Rogers, we can remember to keep an open mind about them and treat them the same as if they weren't beautiful. Also, we can remember someone who isn't good looking could still be smart, kind, or talented. Maybe they're not, but we should wait until we know more to think that. Non-beautiful people like me need the benefit of the doubt. I like to generally assume everyone is nice, so maybe kind wasn't the best example. It could be any trait people consider praiseworthy. I read articles on the internet a few years ago about bias towards attractive people. So this thread and the one from r/2X chromosomes that made the front page remind me of them. They were interesting to read and pessimistic, but I guess I should be the change I want to see in the world, right? Conversation/small talk, I guess. This just happened recently to a friend. Matched a girl on Tinder who looked very attractive in her photos. They had hour-long phone conversations and day-long texting conversations. Went to go meet her for the first time and he felt catfished. Apparently she was much larger than the pictures led on. I told him you gotta expect that a bit, but he says it's a crazy amount, like he felt tricked. Anyway, after knowing she was not very attractive, he said she was awful at conversations, very boring, and asked the same repetitive questions to not let a conversation die. Looking back on his old texts, she was always awful at conversation. Him too, but he was never bored when he thought that she was a really hot girl asking about his day at work or his college program, etc. Being quiet/introverted. If you're attractive, then you're cute or sweet or reserved. If you're ugly, then you're awkward, creepy, or have no life. This may be true, but on the other hand, if you are attractive and introverted, people tend to assume you're a stuck-up person. Agreed. In high school, when I was wearing glasses and had no fringe, I was labeled an ugly weirdo. Halfway through high school, I switched to contacts and cut bangs. I was surprised at how different I looked, but hell, I was even more surprised at how different I was treated. People started talking to me more, but since I'm introverted and got some social anxiety, they decided I was stuck up and thought I was better than everyone. What the hell? Being a criminal sometimes. I remember that beautiful convict guy was floating around the internet for a while. The one that got the modeling contract? He recently did a show where he walked for a big designer. I have no idea, dude. I just remember people trying to justify whatever he did because he was hot. Almost anything. This. Forgetful at work and hot? Let me help you get better. Forgetful and ugly? Bad worker. Flirting with a coworker and hot? Damn, lucky. Ugly? Harassment. The list goes on. What was the line from that average comedian? Being an ugly woman is like being a man. You won't get anything for free. If you're a woman and ugly, you better get really good at math. You'll need to work for it all. Flirting. It's basically sexual harassment if you're ugly. Exactly. I worked with a guy who was basically an adult Huxley Adams. The dude was ugly. Oddly enough, had a very attractive wife. Came in one day to find out he had been fired for sexual harassment. His, I thought, innocent, "You look nice today" style comments had apparently made the women in the office feel uncomfortable. Never mind the fact that he was married and was just being nice in my opinion. Meanwhile, 2 rows away, a different colleague had slept with half of the eligible women in the office and flirted shamelessly to the rest. Not only did they put up with it, they brought him Starbucks. The only difference was he was attractive. Bothering people who are reading. After years of sitting in coffee shops reading, I realized I was curt with anyone who tried to engage me in conversations unless they were an attractive girl. That's a great test though. If you want to know how attractive you are objectively, just interrupt someone reading and see how they respond. I really hope my boyfriend doesn't read this. He'll think that he's hideous based on how hard I try to ignore him when I want to read. Dressing down for an occasion. For example, a hot guy can wear jeans to a semi-formal event and pull it off. Looks fine, no worries. Ugly guy wears jeans to a semi-formal event and he looks lazy and underdressed. To be honest, I think this also correlates greatly with how the clothes fit. In my stereotypical mind vision, the attractive dude wears jeans that fit freaking well, and the ugly guy just wears whatever his mom brought him. People often don't seem to understand how much properly fitting clothes contribute to being attractive. Assuming people want to interact with you. I found that one of the secrets to getting along socially, at least on a surface level, it's not gonna instantly get you deep and fulfilling relationships, is to assume that everyone would rather like you than dislike you until proven otherwise. Because it's true for most people. I'd rather find out this person I just met is cool than find out that they're a douche. It also starts you off on the right foot because you'll be a bit more forward and usually likable as a result. My sister and I call ourselves Princess Diary Pretty because we have frizzy curly hair, but when straightened, we clean up nicely. We tried an experiment for 2 weeks. Week 1, wear sweats, no hair straightening, no makeup. Week 2, wear cute outfits, straighten your hair, do makeup, and wear perfume. I wish we had filmed because the difference in the way we were treated was insane, by men and women. Week 1, people would let doors slam in my face, treat me meanly, and didn't notice me. Week 2, everyone smiled at me, held doors, called me honey, and got invited out with coworkers, and I even had my coffee/donut paid for. Anyone who says that looks don't matter is living in a fantasy world. I can attest to this. I'd say I'm on the pretty side of average. I clean up very well and look very nice when I want to, but unless I put effort into my appearance, I tend to disappear into the crowd. I went out to the bars one night with a friend, wearing my normal clothes with minimal makeup, and people ignored me or just plain treated me poorly. I went out the next night dressed up and made up, and people suddenly wanted to talk to me. It's pretty shocking. Self-deprecation. Deliberately opening the sleeping pod of a hot girl during a long-ass trip to colonize a new planet after your own hibernation was interrupted when your pod malfunctioned. Winking seductively, I would say. I do agree with others though. Just about everything is socially unacceptable if you're ugly. Being bad at your job. Truth. I worked with a guy I called Fabio. He was early 40s with a kind of long wavy hair, handsome face, looked like someone modeled a statue of a Roman general after him. The guy was terrible at his job. Every time I went to his desk, he was watching movies. When he left, we discovered 6 months of work he just straight up didn't do. He worked hard for about 2 years, built up a reputation for being a good worker, and then promptly coasted on that reputation and his good looks. He used to do that hair flip thing when talking with women, and they'd practically go all Elvis fan over him. Being persistent in pursuit of your crush, at least in movies anyways. I have seen this one posted a few times already here, and I feel it's more something people get away with in movies, and people in movies tend to be more good-looking than average people. I assure you that behavior that becomes stalker-like sucks, regardless of how attractive the guy is. Yeah, it gets given a pass in fiction because the audience knows that the object of affection either already secretly returns the pursuer's feelings or will do by the end of the story, which makes the persistence look romantic. In real life, there is no way of knowing how someone else feels about you except when they say so. That doesn't work. Posted this before, but apparently cheating. Know a girl that's very, very attractive. She was cheating on her boyfriend. Her one friend wholly supported it, said, "Sometimes someone better comes along." My friends seemed to think it was no big deal either. One said, "At the end of the day, the most anyone can say about cheating is that it's wrong." My wife seemed to want to give the girl the benefit of the doubt. Said, "We can't consider her the bad guy here. We don't know her whole story. Maybe her current boyfriend is abusive." Perhaps not entirely what the question asked, but I need to get this off my chest. About 10 years ago, I was asked to come in for an interview for selling Bose speakers at one of their B2B outlets. It was an entirely professional deal, and the HR guy on the phone could not stress enough how important knowledge about the sound systems was. So I go in, and only one other guy shows up. We assume they need more people, so we both fancy our chances. The only thing is, this guy has no idea how speakers work, no idea what or who Bose is, and displayed a generally carefree attitude. At least he was wearing a shirt and not a polo with his jeans and sneakers. I get called first, and my interview went on for over 30 minutes, getting grilled about all things imaginable and then some more. I was pretty confident about the material because I knew that stuff, and I thought it went really well. So I come out and this guy is crapping bricks because he did not realize this was a serious job interview. We had built up some rapport while waiting, so when he asked me if I could wait for him for some moral support, we were headed back to the same area too. I said, okay. His interview lasted 5 minutes. He walked out with an offer letter. All they asked him was his name and his background. I was politely asked to reapply after 12 months. This guy was equally confused. He was not a scumbag. In fact, he was a really nice guy. But when you are selling high-end conference room sound systems to people who have no time to even listen to your pitch, Bose wanted good looks over skills. Did I mention this guy looked like a cross between Christopher Reeve and Elvis Presley? Not a popular opinion, but from watching drama within my friend group, cheating. Average guy cheats, girl dumps him and never thinks about his sorry ass again. Hot guy cheats, girl says it's over but is dating him again within a month or two. Probably not many people would admit it. They all say cheating is unacceptable regardless of looks, but as far as I've seen, their actions tell another story. Oh my gosh, I eat so much. I ate like an entire bag of chips. Is funny, but when you're actually fat, it's like, yeah, no duh, loser. People assume your successes are based on your skills. Isn't it the opposite though? As in, people think that attractive people only achieve something because of their looks and not because of hard work? Wearing little to no clothing. The more skin showing on a person who you feel is less desirable, the worse. Also, wearing weird clothing. Pretty model wearing a shapeless oversized shirt to her knees with bedhead and smudgy eye makeup? Couture. Ugly person in the same outfit? Slob. Narcissism/shallowness. There's a ton of vitriol directed at unattractive women who spend a lot of time on their appearance, putting makeup on a pig. Unless you're naturally attractive, there's this idea that you shouldn't even bother trying to look nice because who do you think you're fooling? You'll always be ugly, so just accept your ugliness. You see it a lot, directed at heavy women on this site. Because other people don't find you attractive, people feel like you don't deserve to feel or find yourself attractive. Meanwhile, hot girls can spend an inordinate amount of time on their appearance and documenting their appearance with very little pushback. People like looking at them, so it's okay to like looking at themselves so much too. Doing things and or saying stuff. Also being places or not being places. Crying. When a beautiful person is crying, everyone is concerned and consoling. Ugly people cry, no one gives a crap and acts like they aren't there. Realistically, men being friendly with women. Hot guy at the office, "Hey Janice, you look great today." "Thanks." Ugly guy at the office, "Hey Janice, you look great today." Cold stare followed by sexual harassment complaint made to HR. Being lazy or unemployed or working a crap job. Attractive people tend to get the he/she is finding their way in life excuse, as though the only reason they're working at KFC is to afford their modeling/sports career. Others just get he or she needs to stop being so fat and lazy and get a real job. I bet he or she eats all the chicken and has no friends, etc., etc. People are so judgmental. Your courtship experiences vary widely. He tracked me down and showed up at my doorstep this morning with my favorite pumpkin latte. How romantic. Versus, I'm calling the cops, you creepy stalker. He is so shy, it's so cute. Versus, he never talks, he's weird and creepy. He went to a comic book convention, such a nerd, so cute. Versus, he went to a comic book convention, the freaking neckbeard, lives with his parents, aw, he must really care about his family. Versus, he still lives with his parents, what a loser. Being outgoing and having confidence. I'm considered an ugly woman, and I find that I get through life better when I'm invisible. If I just keep my head down and keep to myself, no one will notice me. I get the most negative reactions when I try to better myself. Pickup lines in general. Has anyone here read any of the 50 Shades books? Rich plus handsome equals literally a free pass on anything. I understand it's fiction, but his behavior is viewed as acceptable, to put it mildly, by millions of people, so my point stands. The saying goes, 50 Shades is a romance because the guy is rich and handsome. If he were poor and ugly, it'd be an episode of Criminal Minds. It's tank tops when you're good looking. It's wife beaters when you're ugly. I've never heard this. I've always heard them referred to as wife beaters whenever a guy wears them, and tank tops when a woman wears them, regardless of attractiveness. Every time I try to call a wife beater a tank top, people say, "You mean wife beater?" Even my wife. Really a bad name to call an article of clothing. That ugly mole somewhere in the vicinity of the nose or mouth, it's a mole, not a beauty mark. Sending nudes. I've noticed that when a guy customer flirts with one of the girls at my work, his level of creepiness is directly related to how attracted they are to him. Being rude to bar staff. I've seen weapons-grade beauties get away with crappy manners, whilst we ordinary folk must say please and thank you just to get a warm drink in a dirty glass. Damn. As bar staff, I have no tolerance for crappy manners. Hot women are too much of a common occurrence for me to give them preferential treatment. Maybe my eyes will be drawn to them first because they're attractive, but that's basically it. Always a customer who is friendly and treats me as a real person will stand out regardless of looks. I'm a recruiter, so I can speak from experience while saying that if you're young and good-looking, you will have a much better chance at getting the job regardless of experience. Doing things that are a little gross, like burping in public. If you're good-looking, people think it's cute and funny. If you're not, then it's gross and unmannered. Eating a lot. Skinny/pretty girl eats an entire pizza? Oh, how cute. She can eat anything she wants and she's still skinny. Adorable. Fat or unattractive or average person eats a whole pizza? Just sad. Simply asking someone out. If you're attractive and ask someone out, even if they decline, they will do it nicely. If you're not attractive and do the same, they will more likely be more rude than make fun of you behind your back. Success. An easier life and lots of sexual advances. I used to date this girl who looked like a Playboy model. She got hit on right in front of me constantly when it was obvious we were together. She was driven nuts from having that her whole life. Every few minutes, someone was getting up the courage to start talking to her, and then going after it. Imagine that. Loved that girl, but some of the worst sex I've ever had. Eating out alone. Jokes, opinions, beliefs, ideas, etc. A bold fashion choice. For example, wearing baggy/distressed clothes is a look when you're skinny and attractive, but can be seen as sloppy if you're unattractive or fat. Letting yourself go a little. What I mean is, a beautiful man can let his hair get shaggy, go a week or two without shaving, and bum around in jeans and a t-shirt. He's so rugged, look how carefree he is. An ugly man does the same thing and he needs to put himself together. No wonder he doesn't have a girlfriend. A beautiful woman decides to bum around the house in sweats with virtually no makeup and her hair tied back because she's in no mood to actually put in the effort to do it up today? After all, she's just hanging out at home with the cat this afternoon. She's a low-maintenance natural beauty. An ugly woman does the same thing and she's a frumpy, lonely cat lady. Big romantic gestures. If someone is into you or finds you attractive, then it's romantic and thoughtful. If not, you're a creep with a restraining order. Winking, like at all. Posting selfies all the time. As a woman who loves video games, I spend a lot of time gaming and streaming. Before I gained weight, viewers as a whole were a lot more friendly and willing to watch my stream. Now I have a health condition and I look pretty rough. I get virtually no views now. Yoga pants? Let's be honest here. That's not stopping anyone. Actually, I think it depends on your level of attractiveness. If you are too attractive, people will be intimidated, especially the same sex, and will say that you are snobby, stuck up, or rude. Yep, if an attractive guy doesn't like talking to people because they're shy or just doesn't care to talk, then people will think, what an asshole. He thinks he's God's gift. This will get buried, but I think it's an interesting phenomenon, so I'm posting it. The problem of someone's attractiveness clouding your judgment about them is self-reinforcing. As a dude, I've noticed social pressure to avoid treating a hot girl as anything but an angel. Even if she's an awful person and deserves to be called out on something, I'll get the flack for doing it in the following manners. A. Come on man, she doesn't deserve that, you're being too harsh. B. Why aren't you trying to impress her? Are you gay? LOL. But then, maybe if I was more attractive, people would take my criticisms of attractive people more seriously. Not sure if it makes a difference, but I asked Reddit how attractive I was on an alt a while ago. I was told, average, but probably above average if you were to dress better. Wearing a man romper, handsome guy wearing it, really funny. Ugly guy trying, please bro. Everything. I was blessed with a little bit of beauty, but for every ounce I didn't have, I had to fill it with charisma. My sister was born hot. She feels like the world should bow to her, and it does. It's been proven every single time I've ever been out with her. I have to work 3 times as hard to accomplish the same thing. Sometimes I fail. She has never once been denied anything. This may get eye rolls, but as a pretty attractive guy, there are also downsides. Not to sound arrogant, but since I know it and also happen to be a pretty sensitive person, a lot of social interactions with people are always on the awkward side. Both men and women are constantly avoiding eye contact or trying to pretend like you aren't there, since they don't want to come across as either interested or too close. It's incredibly frustrating, and I'm not self-important at all, but my personality also doesn't seem to matter to people at all. I'm just the attractive guy. Men, being the testosterone-filled competitive people they are constantly trying to one-up you or be comparative with you. Women tend to only act shy or flirty, and if you strike up a conversation with them, they either immediately slip in "my boyfriend" somewhere in the conversation because you're automatically hitting on them. People are often very scared of you, and it oftentimes drives you crazy. I don't mean to sound narcissistic at all, but I know I'm attractive, and I often feel depressed, since if I act confident or happy, I feel the judging eyes of being the self-important douche, and if I'm quiet or reserved, I become the asshole. Honest question, can anyone relate? Going out in sweats with no makeup, hair in a messy top knot with slippers on, hot girls? OMG, it's so relatable and cute that she's so confident to go out with a natural face. Go out that way when you're fat and ugly? Why don't you take care of yourself? Are you sick? Alternatively, wearing dramatic makeup. If you're pretty, it makes you confident and creative. If you're ugly and overweight, it means you're trying too hard. Basically, you can't do anything either way. Meh. Pretty girls put up with a ton of stupid crap at the other end of the spectrum too. Life sucks for mostly everyone. What socially expected thing do you hate doing the most? Having to say goodbye to everyone individually at a family or social gathering. I'm all about the Irish goodbye. Holding babies when people offer me them. I don't want to hold your potato. I'll probably break it. It's usually so awkward too. Most of the time the baby starts to cry and you have to do that, "Oh, it's okay, go back to mommy now," like 2 seconds later. Talking about myself in my resume, college application, interview, etc. Excessive socializing. My family and friends have given me crap for going straight to my room after going out or hanging out with them all day. It's like, didn't you have enough of me? I've definitely had enough of you. This is why I drifted away from my friends 6 years ago and found my wife. I also got tired of hanging out one-on-one, always turning into "now we're here where everyone is, as usual." I didn't exactly grow out of them, I just couldn't deal with the constant group socialization on a daily basis, and more people started coming into the picture who I disliked, and they were also there, every freaking time. I used to do a bi-weekly dinner with friends, and when it started, there were 4 of us. A coworker gets invited, then the brother of a friend, another coworker and his wife, a boyfriend of one of the original girls. Now the group is far too big to reasonably accommodate at the place that we were going to. One girl fades out with her boyfriend and the group didn't want to shrink, so they have invited more people. Now we have another guy and his wife. People get offended when you can't make it. Some are tired of the usual place. mostly because it doesn't accommodate the large group very well. So now they want to switch it up, every time. This is where everything falls apart, and the original group has scattered, and I just want to have the bi-weekly dinners with my 3 friends again. Highly formal office clothes for 99% of people required to wear them. You sit at a desk all day and the only other people who see you are your coworkers. What function does that collar serve? Does it inhibit vertical neck movement so you keep your head down and work? Are dress shoes required to make you move less so you stay in your seat and work more? Singing or being sung happy birthday. This has always embarrassed me so much. What are you supposed to do when they sing to you? Smile uncomfortably? Sing as well? Sit stone-faced plotting their deaths? Ugh, I dread it every birthday. Pretending to be happy and energetic when you're not, or everyone thinks you're a grump. I have no energy to match the level of social squirrels constantly talking and over-emoting about every little thing. This, so much this. There's this guy at my work that has all the energy in the world and he is always trying to joke around and mess with me. Oh, you helped Bob today. Now I feel betrayed because you didn't help me out, ha 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 ha. It was funny the first time, but it's been 6 months and you're still saying the same joke and it's not funny anymore. Go away. He's been doing the same joke with my coworker for 10 years, and she still giggles and plays along. Frick that. Ass kissing to get a job. It feels disgusting. Even ass kissing aside, just the whole bullcrap routine one has to go through to get a job. It's all such nonsense. You're expected to have a resume that has horse crap, nonsense words like facilitated, implemented, coordinated, streamlined, and at least 100 other horse crap nonsense words to make your past jobs sound way more important than they were. What's worse is that I know HR people know damned well that's all a bunch of BS, but it's expected anyway. Then, if you actually manage to get an interview, you're expected to put on a show about how you want to do something more than to exchange your services for money, and if you don't convince them of that, you remain jobless. That is especially aggravating for low-level jobs that no one would ever do if they had a choice, and if it didn't provide an income. I, like most people, have an aversion to starving to death and living outside. As such, when a company is advertising a job, that means they have a lack of labor and a surplus of money. I have a surplus of labor and a lack of money. Therefore, in exchange for filling their labor deficit, I will accept them filling my money deficit, or at least reducing it. Why can't it be that simple? My first job interview was at a grocery store. I was considered for a position in the fruits and vegetable department. When asked why I wanted to do this job, I was honest and said I thought it was time for me to make some money and gain some independence. I felt like it was a fair answer. The guy then told me never to mention money in an interview. What the hell am I supposed to say then? Since I was a kid, my passion was always stacking frickin' cucumbers and bananas on shelves for 8 hours a day? Please. Hugging people you don't want to hug. Get some personal space up in this place. 1. Personal space. 2. Gotta have that personal space. 3. Stay out of my personal space. Pretending that I want to advance in any job I have. No, I don't care about becoming a manager or whatnot. I took this job because it's what I wanted to do. I'm not interested in being paid to think about how other people should work harder. Small talk when doing things like getting your hair cut. I just find it super awkward. I could care less about what holidays you're planning or your thoughts and opinions on what's going on around the world. If I could go to a silent hairdresser, I'd pay at least double for that. My normal hairdresser was on vacation last week, so I went to somebody new and we barely spoke the entire time. It was fantastic. At one point, I said, "Sorry, I'm not very talkative, I've just had a long day." And she said, "I'm actually so relieved you said that, and I don't really feel like talking either." And we went about our business of not talking. 10 out of 10, highly recommend it. This is probably only applicable to people who don't live alone, but having to entertain people who are not your friends when your family member or flatmate leaves the room to go to the toilet or make a drink or something. It's so painfully awkward. But less awkward than blanking them for a couple of minutes. Writing thank you notes. I honestly would rather give the gift back than write another stupid thank you note. I'm Southern. It's not just expected, it's required. You'll have your accent revoked if you do not comply. Looking at pictures of people's babies. It looks like every other baby. What am I meant to say? I was walking my rat terrier several years ago. He was white with black spots and a little bit of tan, and a woman approached me and commented on how much he looked like her pet cows. She then proceeded to show me a complete photo album of her cows. There were photos of her cows dressed up for every holiday, and I got to see every one of them. She didn't seem like there was anything wrong with her, just really loved her cows. Work? Can I just run away to the hills, please? Any hills will do. I just wanted to live in a stone hut with a bunch of animals when I was 9. I was told this was an unacceptable life goal. I am a woman and straight, so if that's not a flavor you go for, no hard feelings. Also, I was 9. I was thinking more hanging out in the woods with my animal friends than setting up a viable working farm that makes a profit. And specifically a stone hut because this was a dream that developed while on holiday in the Scottish Highlands. Lots of abandoned crofters' cottages, and I saw them and thought, yes, perfect. You know you could do this. I mean, you need some money to buy some land, then you need income to pay taxes on it, but you can get that by selling skins or growing some crop and selling it. But then if you want fresh food in the winter, you need to have more money, so you need to grow more crops. Plus, if you want to keep using Reddit, you need internet and electricity, and those you need to pay for too. And then you really need a significant income. And you'll want some people to help out growing the crops, so you're not just working day and night, but you need to pay their wages with more crops, and holy crap, you're just running your own farm now. The whole, hello, how are you? Good, how are you? Good, routine. For most people, I don't care how you are, and you don't care how I am. Skip it. I don't know if this is a female thing, but there's a pressure to be really enthusiastic around kids. I don't like or dislike children, but I don't like being expected to behave like a kindergarten teacher every time I meet one. This whole over-the-top, bubbly, annoying thing that most women do with kids just exhausts me. I know that it's genuine for some women, but for many, it's a weird competition to see who can be the most motherly or nurturing. It can be pretty creepy sometimes. Late to the party, but I'm a mother and I also hate this crap. I love my kid to death and love being a mother to her, but I have 9 nieces and nephews and they're cute. But I'm not interested in spending my time entertaining them. Some women just don't love kids. I think the whole loving kids thing is an interesting concept. To me, children are all individuals who have their own little personalities, and I feel like people who say things like they love kids treat them like toys. I like playing and interacting with them, but there's a fine line for me. I work for a place where sometimes women bring their children in, and every time my coworker will run up, drop everything, pick the kids up, and put on this whole show about how excited she is to see them. This is fine, but if the mother is in the office for like an hour, this girl will do this whole baby talking thing the entire time. What annoys me is that she's only like this to kids she likes. She'll call other kids weird behind their backs if they don't love her. It's hilarious to see her get rejected by some kids. I don't like invading children's space. If a kid wants to give me a hug, they can, but I won't ask for it or hold them if they don't want me to. It's so much more rewarding when a kid gives you a hug out of the blue because they want to. I'll play with them and keep them safe, but this isn't a daycare. Being polite to everyone and the customer is always right bullcrap. I work with bikes. They are the same as cars in terms of the size of the part is the size of the part. Just because you don't like the answer doesn't mean it's wrong. I had to politely argue with a guy today over how the bikes get longer and taller as they go up in size. He was adamant that this bike, which I ride and sell, does not grow in wheelbase because the small, his size, and the large, the one he was ordering. I'm a polite guy, and I just phrase it as we want you to get the bike that fits you so that you can enjoy the sport whilst being comfy and confident. He was trying to order a bike that would not fit him. This is akin to a guy wanting a Porsche track car ordering a JCB. He ordered the bike and it got built. Didn't fit, returned it, and wasted everyone's time. Wish I could just say, you are wrong. I used to work for a GameStop. An old lady comes in and asks for Mario for the Xbox. 20-minute argument about Mario being on the Xbox because her grandson told her and he's very smart. I just wanted to be, listen lady, you're so old that your version of video games is rubbing your eyes a lot and seeing spots. Leave the gaming to me. I ended up telling her that we don't carry it and she should try Walmart. Going to boring social gatherings. Any sort of shower-style event, baby shower or bridal shower, can I just give you a present? Why do we have to play stupid games and then I have to watch you open all your gifts while your grandma breathes on me? How about no gift? Seriously, how much stuff does one need to get just to be married? They get a gift for the bridal shower, gift for the wedding, gift for the bachelorette, and just straight up cash grab at the stag and dough. One wedding, one gift, or envelope of cash, and please don't blow it all on the party. Save it for a down payment or something that will last longer than 6 hours. Celebrating my birthday. I can't stand being the center of attention. It just causes me more anxiety to make plans and wait for people to show up than anything else. For like 10 years now, I've just done a thing where I go to a Japanese steakhouse, my favorite type of restaurant, with my close family for my birthday. Nobody sings or anything. We just go out, enjoy some chicken and steak, and that's it. It's really low-key and nice. Tipping. People should be paid a fair wage, not a minimum wage. Tipping in coffee shops, like why? You're making my drink and then I leave. It's not a continuous service. Honestly, I think that the people in positions that are getting paid above minimum wage that expect tips are ruining it for people like waiters who make $2.13 an hour and actively rely on tips to make ends meet. If people weren't expected to tip everywhere they go, they wouldn't have as much of a problem tipping their waiter. But seriously, frick those people that go out to eat and make their waiter run their ass off complaining about the drink because this Dr. Pepper tastes funny. Get me a sweet tea instead. Or every time you go by their table, they need something else, and then they don't leave a tip. Waiters have other tables they have to take care of too, and if you weren't planning on tipping from the start, don't ruin your waiter's day by lowering the quality of service they can provide their tipping customers. I hated waiting tables. Can you tell? And yes, 99% of my hate for waiting tables was having to kiss my customer's ass for them to think they did a good thing when they left me that $3 tip after I just ran my ass off for an hour, making sure you had everything you needed for an enjoyable lunch. So I'm not spreading misinformation. Servers in the US are actually paid $2.13 an hour plus tips, meaning the restaurant pays them $2.13 per hour, if that, and their tips equal out to minimum wage or more over a 2-week pay period. If they have a crappy couple of weeks and don't make at least minimum wage with $2.13 an hour plus tips, the restaurant is required to make up the difference so that the server at least makes minimum wage. Small talk. Phone calls. I can answer the phone just fine. I can dial into conference bridges just fine. I can retrieve voicemail just fine. But dialing someone individually? Wow. If I have to make a phone call, I procrastinate like you would not believe. Just let me go to the toilet, get another cup of coffee, check my pension balance, and finish reading this article about Aardvark racing. Buying holiday gifts for coworkers. At my company, it is expected that everyone gets a little gift for everybody in the office. Individually, the gifts aren't that expensive, but when buying for several people, it adds up quickly. I resent that I have to spend money on people I don't really care about that much. Secret Santa? Bingo. My friends used to do the buy a $20 to $25 gift for each person around Christmas, but wow did that add up. We settled for a Secret Santa gift or gifts that amounted to around $50, but just for one person. So much better. It's cheaper and you don't have to go shopping for tons of different people. Having to come up with a reason for not doing something as opposed to just saying I don't want to. One of my friends once told us, I'm not feeling social today. My other friends and I laughed about it at the time, but in retrospect, damn, more people should say that. Waking up in the morning. I don't get it. Seems like everyone hates it except the 3% of the population that gets to decide that rule. My body tells me it wants to be up at night and sleep in the morning. I will risk all the worms. I will never be the early bird. I was actually diagnosed with something called delayed sleep phase disorder. For as long as I remember, I just can't get tired before 3 or 4 a.m. Drugs helped temporarily. Light/dark therapy didn't do anything. So what I did was get a fully remote job with a group in California while living on the East Coast. They don't start moving until 10 a.m. So my go time is now 1 p.m. I can't tell you how much my life improved after this, but when I tried to force it, I just had constant mental lag. Some people are just not morning people, period. I feel ya. If I sleep in one solid chunk overnight, I need 9 hours of sleep to barely make it through the day. I've been chronically tired without any real cause for years. Then I learned about biphasic/polyphasic sleeping, 2 to 4 hour naps for example, and now I have way more energy. It's not an option for most schedules, but I just started a new job where I work 6 a.m. to 2:30, then go home and have my first sleep, go do Lyft for a few hours, then back home for a second sleep and repeat. The change is amazing after 10 plus years of feeling like a zombie. Stupid icebreaker activities at seminars or events. No, I don't want to do a stupid dance to get the blood flowing. I'm here to learn something and get crap done, not make friends. Get on with the damn program. Going to family gatherings for a wide array of occasions, including anniversaries, birthdays, graduations, reunions, confirmations, etc. Those can be long days of tedious small talk with not much in common to discuss other than that we're related. Especially with family you barely know and don't really talk to outside of these gatherings. It's the worst. Always ask the same questions. How's school/work? Are you dating anyone? I don't want to tell them about my life and personal stuff. It's none of their business. I'm not telling you anything I wouldn't tell a stranger because that's what you are to me. Being in a relationship. Maybe I just don't want to be in one right now. I wish people would just respect that. I prefer the thrill of the chase and the young love. Eventually, it just gets boring and you want your life back. So many young couples in particular have to do every little thing together and cannot function independently. Part of why I think it's a good idea for young couples to spend some time being long distance, so they learn how to be in a relationship while also being independent. It's hard, but if you want it to work, you'll make it work. Having a wedding when you get married. I suppose if you want to, but the truth is, to me, they are meaningless, stressful wastes of money. Hair and makeup. I've legit stopped giving a rat's ass, but I often think people assume I'm lazy and don't give a crap if my skin's a bit blotchy or my hair's a bit frizzy. I don't want to waste half an hour at the mirror, Barbara. And it's not just the application. You've also got to spend another half an hour removing the makeup and combing your hair to avoid it getting knotted from the hairstyle you did. Really a waste of time for an everyday thing. Being social. I'm basically a hermit outside of going to work 9 to 6 Monday through Friday. Responding to relatives or elders when they ask how school is going. Seeing relatives I don't like and having to get along with them, especially when everyone agrees they're an asshole. Yet I'm in the wrong for wanting to have nothing to do with them despite everyone hating having to interact with them. Sometimes I just don't feel like flirting with girls, building up the courage, going through with it and trying to keep a conversation alive. It's like being forced to walk a flaming tightrope when after a long week of work, all I want to do is get wasted with my friends and go to sleep. I hear you. And other times your chemistry is so good that it feels effortless. I can tell you people who have been hurt a lot aren't generally as open to new relationships. They tend to be more careful before opening up. I hate saying bye at social events. It takes so much time and there's always someone questioning why you're leaving. I usually just dip out and text everyone after. Having to change who you are to get a job. I feel like I'm killing part of myself when I have to brown nose the people who interviewed me just to get the job. Trust me, I'll make your business better. Just let me do the job. But there is a perfect Patty with her nose lodged in someone's Tootsie factory who is half the worker I am, and she gets the job. Kissing women on the cheeks when I meet them. Just shake my hand, Sharon. I've never done this, and don't believe I've ever seen it done. Is it really the norm? I'm Hispanic/Latin, and it's normal for us to greet people like that. We grew up doing it, so it isn't creepy or weird. My grandma used to say people started doing it when they realized people's hands are dirty and it's a risk no one wants to take. As in, perhaps the person you are greeting didn't wash their hands after using the washroom, or they're sick and coughed and sneezed on them without washing or sanitizing. Also, it's not really a kiss on the cheek. It's just like a gentle hug where you almost give a kiss, but it never happens. It's always someone white, as an American or Canadian who didn't know, who gives an actual kiss. That's when it gets uncomfortable because now you're left with a wet spot on your face by a stranger. LOL. Getting photographed. No, I don't want you randomly snapping pictures of me mid-sentence when I look stupid. No, I don't want to pose for you either. Shoving a freaking camera in my face when I mind my own business is rude and intrusive. Then when I ask for you to stop, it seems to be a license to hound me with, "Oh, I'm gonna get you," simply because you can. Frick my comfort, eh? It's now your personal challenge to follow me around and take photos because you know I don't like it. Short of punching you in the face, which of course I'm not going to do, I only have the option of appealing to your good graces to leave me the hell alone. And it appears good graces are in short supply. It baffles me why people can't go with, "Oh, that bothers you? Sorry, I'll leave you be." Caring about my coworkers' lives. Networking. I just hate the surface evaluation of other people. It could not make a difference to me whether you sweep floors or head an advertising company. At the end of the day, everyone is a person. In fact, I feel like the more accomplished someone is, the more likely they are to be a selfish person. Having to remember everyone's birthday. Unless you're my fiance or my dog, I don't give a crap. Or if you're like 96, because that's impressive. Going to weddings. Telling people good morning. Look, I just got to work. More than likely, I don't want to be here. Just leave me alone for at least 20 to 30 minutes. Drinking. I used to be a heavy equipment operator and I was basically shamed for not getting wasted with the bosses when working in camp. No raises, no advancement, no nothing because I don't enjoy boozing. I did gain some credit when they found out I smoked pot. However, still the reality was that even though I was a faster, cleaner, and more efficient operator than most, I wasn't going to advance with the company unless I took up alcoholism and ass-kissism. To hell with that. I hate when people treat me to stuff. Like, "Don't worry, I'll pay for your coffee," from a coworker. I feel like to be graceful about it, you're supposed to refuse first. Then they insist. Then you accept and act surprised at their generosity. I never feel like I show my appreciation enough, and I wish you could just accept it and say thanks without having to deal with all the pageantry. making phone calls. I hate calling people on the phone. I'm fine talking in person, I'm fine texting or emailing. Please don't make me call you. I find it stupidly awkward. It's apparently socially expected that if you're in a serious relationship at a young age, you won't last, or expected that you get more life experience. Except I'm happy where I am right now. I've been happy for years. I'm sorry you've gone through 2 husbands, Karen. I'm just going to enjoy my 4-year stable relationship over here, despite my young age. Holding in farts. I just want to let it go. Blessing someone after they sneeze. I think it's kind of rude to assume that someone wanted to be blessed. I don't do it. If anything, the sneezer should say "excuse me," like we do with other functions, especially with how loudly and obnoxiously people sneeze. Some people straight up scream, and I'm supposed to bless you for scaring the crap out of everyone in the room? You don't bless someone for burping. Ever have dinner with someone and someone lets out some death metal growl of a burp? You don't bless them, do you? My uncle used to be a real stickler about this. He'd let out this monstrosity of a sneeze and look at me like I was the rude one and ask, have anything to say? Do you have anything to say? You nearly just gave me a heart attack and I'm supposed to bless you for it? You sneeze, you say excuse me. People expect me to say hi to them, even if I see them 3 or 4 times a week. I get it, we know each other. I don't need to know how you're doing 4 times a week. I don't care. You have to give people cards every time you give them a present. I just don't understand. No one likes cards, and they get thrown away anyway. Please stop expecting me to get people stupid pieces of cardboard with words that I didn't even write on them. As much as people hate me for this, the Pledge of Allegiance in America. As a kid, I felt like a Hitler youth being forced to do it every day, at the same time without explanation as to why. Keeping eye contact when speaking to someone. Talking to random people on the street who talk to me. I look very approachable. I'm a tiny woman and have a very sincere-looking face. If someone is even slightly inclined to talk to strangers, they tend to talk to me. If I don't answer, people start getting violently angry and shouting and asking me if I think I'm too good for them. No, I just have no idea what to say because I don't know you, random person. Both women and men do this to me. It's not really hitting on me. I don't know how to explain it other than saying it's more like the whole world thinks I'm some long-lost little sister. I apparently look like someone everyone urgently needs to talk to. I moved to the city partially because I expected people not to talk to me here. Drinking alcohol. I'm so sick of everyone questioning my motives as to why I'm not drinking or saying I'm weird and then keep offering me drinks over and over again. Apparently, I don't like alcohol very much or I don't enjoy getting wasted are not acceptable answers. Going to church just because everyone else was going to be there and they're going to hassle you about why you weren't. Having to always act like a stoic man and never showing my feelings. Choosing a career by the time you're out of high school. Being expected to be social. Being the big spoon. You know what? Maybe a dude likes a cuddle every now and then. Remembering people's names. Returning phone calls. When someone is talking and accidentally gets some saliva on you and you have to sit there and continue to listen to the story while their spit sits on your face because you don't want to be rude and call them out on their mouth sprays. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you want to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.